Hey everybody, it's Corey Poirier here with Blue Talks, back at you live again with my co-host Elise Rothman and Elise with Flip Your Script. And we've been here all week. This is our last but not least day where we're going to be talking to three more absolute game changers, in my opinion, who are going to bring some amazing insight and mind seeds. And also, I always forget to mention this, so I'm going to make sure I mention it right off the top. With sharing, if you can share for us, we'd love that. If you can comment, we'd love that. That's how you get in the contest. But also it helps more people discover the great insight that's being shared in these interviews. And then also finally with Blue Talks, if you want to know more about Blue Talks, go to bluetalks.com. And I'll pass it over to Elise to say a little something about Flip Your Script before we start kicking things off.
Yeah, so if you want to find out more about what it means to flip your script and how to actually put it into play in your own life, you can find me at Flip Your Script with Elise on all social media. I'm eliserothman.com. And flipping your script is really about taking those internal limiting beliefs and that subconscious script and recognizing where your mind is set right now and learn how to reset your mindset by recognizing, releasing, and restoring. And today is actually a Flip Your Script Friday. So that's pretty exciting too. So the guests today are going to help us flip your script. And I'm super excited to see what Corey has in store for us because he is the genius and the attractor of all these amazing thought leaders this week. And so I'm super excited to see who you now have manifested in your life, Corey, and in ours.
Well, awesome. Thank you so much, Elise, for that kind compliment as well. And let me ask you one quick question just before we bring our guest on. Is it Good Friday in the U.S. today as well?
Oh, yeah, you're probably right. Yes, it is because it's Easter Sunday, right?
Yeah,
Sunday's Easter.
I'm just curious. I usually know which ones are the same holidays, but I mentioned to somebody on Monday I couldn't do the interview because even though I'm working today, I'm taking Easter Monday off because of having two little kids. And he's like, I just heard, like he's in Colorado, and he said, I just heard of this thing called Easter Monday like 4 days ago. What is this? And so, I mean,
I don't know if I ever heard of Easter Monday either.
Yeah, I think it's a Canadian thing. So that's why I started second guessing the Good Friday side as well. But I mean, you guys have Easter Sunday.
We have Easter Sunday, and I mean, I do both. I'm Jewish, but I'm a Christmas Jew, so we do Christmas and Hanukkah. And actually, I didn't do Passover this year. However, we will be gathering here at Manatee Landing Retreat. Whoever is joining us as a guest here, or our treat people, I call them, whoever is here, we're going to have a big Easter Sunday. And we just had a very spontaneous organization of it. An Easter egg hunt tomorrow. So we have a bunch of kids here. We have some friends of mine who have younger kids, and we're just going to hide eggs all over the retreat and do a little Easter egg hunt tomorrow afternoon. So that'll be a lot of fun.
I love it. Well, and on that note, as far as the Easter side, when I mentioned that we do Easter Sunday as far as we have a meal in Easter Sunday, but it's one of these times where in Canada we double up because how the Easter Monday comes in is it really, in my opinion, it's just basically they give you a holiday in lieu of the Sunday because it lands on a Sunday.
Right.
And basically, some things are closed and some people choose to celebrate. Some people have their supper on Easter Monday, but yeah, it's a Canadian thing. So that's I didn't really clue into that until he said, dude, I just heard of this 4 days ago. What's Easter Monday? So
well, it's interesting. And a quick question about Christmas for you guys in Canada. I lived in Norway for many years, and Christmas Eve was their big, opening the presents. That was the big celebration, which I think is great for parents because they're not like having to get up at like 4 o'clock in the morning with all these kids ready to open up their gifts. So it's Christmas Eve as their big celebration day. Is it the same in Canada, or do you do Christmas Day?
Now it depends. I feel like with that one, it depends on the family themselves.
Okay.
So for instance, and when I say we, I mean, like Shelly, my mother, my family that way, like my smaller family, we do a Christmas Eve thing. But what we do on Christmas Eve is we open just one gift from each person, but we kind of still do a Christmas Eve thing. I watch Scrooge, the original Scrooge of the Christmas Carol every year. We do Christmas Eve. We make it special, but Christmas morning, because we have kids, is when we actually open the presents. Now, I know a lot of family friends, they open everything. They do everything Christmas Eve. They're done Christmas Eve.
Yeah, so they can sleep in Christmas morning.
And if you don't have kids, I think it's a smart move. But, we were conditioned, meaning my family, to think that Christmas morning's when the kids open the gifts. And so that's kind of what we started with our kids. And yeah. And Sebastian, all he knows is that every day should be Christmas and or his birthday. Like
well, I agree with him.
He's like, his birthday ends. We had to celebrate his birthday this year on a different day than his birthday to do with COVID and a few different things. And we celebrated it. And the next day he's like, when's my birthday again?
Again.
Yeah. Well, he said, when's my birthday again? When is it? Coming soon?
Same time each year.
Yeah. So, but I mean, yeah. Anyway, I digress.
Well, it's kind of funny because my son, he's 26 now, but for years, and I think he finally got it, but he would say, when's New Year's Eve again? December 31st. The only thing that changes is the year that you go into. Like, he couldn't figure out that the months of the year, like which day came after, like, was it always Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday? Like, something didn't sort of calculate, but he would always be like, when's Christmas Eve again? What day is Christmas Eve again? Always December 31st. So I thought it was like funny. Always the same, Jay. Always the same.
Love it. Awesome stuff. So we've established it's Good Friday for everybody. So happy
Good Friday.
Absolutely. So on that note, speaking of happy, let's bring on our first guest. I don't know. That was a weird segue, but just like she's going to bring the happy for us.
Okay. No pressure, Gloria, but you just got introduced as happy.
Oh, there you go.
So Gloria, I don't know if you have seen one of our events before in terms of how we open things up, but typically what I like to do is get the guests to tell us a little bit about themselves. And I've always felt that's better than, as I've said many times, me reading a bio that maybe I miss a word here and there. So usually we get the person just to tell us a little bit about themselves. And you don't have to worry about how deep you go because we'll dive in deeper anyway. But Can you tell us just a little bit about yourself for those discovering you or seeing you for the first time today?
I actually live in Stettler, Alberta, and I am married with 2 children and 2 stepchildren and 4 dogs. They just give you lots of unconditional love, I feel. And I work for home care as well. And I just have been on this journey, to get my story out. And that's where I met you, Corey, in Edmonton. And that's kind of a little bit about me.
Okay, so I just want to know what the story is. What's the story you want to get out, Gloria? Maybe we could start a little bit there. Go a little deeper already. We're just going to go right for it.
I wrote a book a year ago, and it was called Behind the Eyes. I've always been told I have really pretty eyes, and so that was where the title of the book actually came out. And Behind the Eyes, a story of perseverance. I was adopted as a child, and I am Indigenous. I didn't really know that too much, but moving into a community where I was really one of the few black-haired children, it kind of made you be apart, set apart from the rest of the, and I was adopted into like a fairly huge family. I was number 9 and number 9. My sister was number 10. And I always feel that I went kind of from the frying pan into the fire. It's not a story that is easy to tell, but it's one that I feel needs to be told and have more people come forward, and maybe the secrets will come out in the open. I was sexually abused as a child, and it started right from the day that I moved into the family, and continued until I was 19 and left. It was something that I hid. I think I hid very well, except for the fact that I had gained a lot of weight in that first year, 40 pounds. It was on my report card. And so it took a lot of courage to come forward and actually say something. I said something at 30 because I started counseling. I kind of needed to. I'd had my 2 sons and started drinking pretty heavy, and it was just a way of coping. And but I didn't want that for me or my boys. So I had to deal with some things, and so I started doing that. And but then it still took about another probably 20 years to really dig deeper and I actually charged 3 of the brothers, and it went to court. I had support, from a friend that I actually grew up with, and her sister had actually witnessed one of the episodes, and so she actually went to court and stood up as well. So I think that even if I help one person, I know when my book came out, I had someone who private messaged me and said, "Thank you for pulling back the curtain." It's, it definitely wasn't easy. But I think maybe as I speak more, and even if I help one child, overcome this, and it's okay to tell, it needs to be told.
So I have a question for you, and I just have to say, wow, wow, and wow. I mean, I'm speechless in that arena, but I'm going to just, how is your inner child doing?
I think I finally spoke up for that inner 6-year-old child, and have done a lot of healing over the years. Looking for, there's more besides drinking and, hiding. I think I'm an overcomer, and I feel that I've had to overcome a lot in my life.
Well, I just want to commend the little girl for being so strong and bold.
Yeah.
Well, and one of the things I noticed that you said there, Gloria, and I want to ask about it because I want to make sure I heard it correctly. You mentioned the weight gain that you went through. You said, and it was on your report card.
Yeah, that's an interesting thing to put on the report card.
I never heard of that. So
yeah, it was put on my grade 1 report card. It's on there.
Grade 1.
Yes,
wow.
Grade 1.
And it's very interesting because I work with a lot of individuals who are carrying a lot of weight. I mean, it's manifests into physical weight, but a lot of that is protection.
Yes.
Kind of like that barrier and block. Do you feel that that's kind of like, was that instant sort of, okay, like let's get into survival mode or protection mode?
I believe that was, it was, make yourself more unattractive. I really feel, I always was told I had a pretty face, but I needed to lose weight. And that was actually from my mother, like my adopted mom. And so it was a form of protection. That journey has over the years, I've done bariatric surgery. I felt that was another part of my journey that I had to, that I went down and, to help get rid of some and to change the outer me to kind of match the inner me.
So so you had 10 siblings. Were you all adopted?
No, my sister and myself were the 2 youngest ones, and we were adopted into the family.
Wow, that's like you already have like 8 kids.
Yeah.
And you adopt 2 more. That's an interesting perspective from a family standpoint as well.
Yeah.
So did your mom take some of this journey with you, your adoptive mom?
No, they knew nothing. I never said anything. And actually when it was going to court, Mom just passed away. And so there was a restraining order. So really, I did not go to her funeral as well. And because if I was there, they couldn't be. And I just felt as, I had said my goodbyes a different way. And that was, I guess I took the higher route. I did not go. I mean, I had cousins phone me and say, "Oh, we thought we would see you today," sort of thing. But
so she wasn't aware of it at all throughout her whole life.
No.
Wow, that's interesting. She's protecting you now for sure. I just got goosebumps.
Okay, good.
Just letting you know. I don't know what's her name.
What was her name?
What
Mabel.
is? Well, I say it. Oh, that's my niece's name. Mabel. I haven't heard that name in forever, and she's like 3 years old, and my sister named her Mabel. I was like, that's bringing the past into the present.
Yeah.
Mabel.
And so, correct me if I'm wrong, Gloria, but you have another book as well.
Yes. Having said all of that, I felt that what I went through made me a stronger person, And I had a son who had a stroke at the age of 7. And so I wrote that story. It's called Walking Through the Storm, Weathering Life After a Stroke. And it was kind of our journey through what we went through with that. Byron did survive. He is 30. And, you know, like he has some cognitive issues and things like that, but he, you know, we went through a hard time. His older brother was like 7 when he was born. And so he was 14 when we had the stroke. And so I was in Edmonton for 3 months with Byron in the hospital. And so, yeah, it was a pretty tough go for our family.
I've never heard of that. I didn't even realize until this exact minute that I mean, obviously everything is possible, but I didn't realize that happened, that people had strokes even before 20. I shouldn't say before 20, but like in their teens or earlier. I'd never heard of that before.
Yeah.
Is that rare? Like you would know that probably.
Yeah, his was rare. He as a baby always had ear infections. And so a lot of tubes were put in his ears. Like I think at that time there was up to 8. That was about the 8th surgery he had, and not knowing, you know, too much about it. I mean, he was just little, and we started getting those tubes put in, but the doctor didn't give him antibiotics, and so the infection attacked it was a strep infection. It attacked his heart, and part of that broke off and went to the brain. So it was really an embolism as well, and so he. That was really, you know, the stroke was secondary to all of that happening. He was on life support for 10 days, and we were in the hospital for 3 months.
Wow. And how's he doing now?
Like I said, cognitively, he, you know, and he's a 30-year-old man. And so in some ways he's where he should be. In other ways he is not. But he continues to live with, you know, with my husband and myself and a stepbrother. And so he's, you know, COVID has really kind of clipped our wings as far as, you know, going out and being with people and stuff, just because of, you know, he doesn't have a very good immune system to begin with. So, you know, we like to keep him protected. So.
Mm-hmm. Wow, what a journey you've been on, girl.
Yeah.
Quite the journey. On all fronts,
yeah.
Huh?
Yeah. And like I said to Corey, the boy's dad just passed this week. So that was a little bit emotional too.
Oh, he transitioned.
Yeah. Yeah.
And what's his name?
David Lenz. We actually ended up being called, and we went to an 8-hour drive actually from here to Regina, Saskatchewan to see him. And we saw him Saturday, and he then passed on Tuesday night. So at least we did get.
So is that your husband? Is that your husband?
It was I was actually never married to the boy's dad, but that's a whole different story.
Okay.
We don't. But anyways,
I mean, you could go there if you want, but so the 2 boys are your boys, and then the 2
my boys. And their dad just passed. Yes. Yeah. We had lived together for quite a few years, and, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Gloria, I'd like to talk a little bit about, you know, writing the books. You mentioned a person reached out to you a week after the book came out and said, thank you for sharing this and pulling back the curtain. What I'd love to know is, what is ultimately your goal in terms of impact? Like, what would what's your hope that comes from this? Is it, like, for example, more discussion around something that is typically hidden, or, and I guess I'm going back to the previous book right now, but I'm just wondering what you would hope would come from you putting this out into the world.
I would hope that more people would share and send some light on this really dark subject. Since this has happened, I work with some elderly people, and I will say that, well, I wrote a book, and then, well, what's your book about? And so then I just kind of said my past, and I've had people in their 80s say, you know, what happened to me, and this is the first time I'm sharing that it did. And so I'm hoping that, you know, it will open a door for people to speak about their experiences.
And I feel like it will. Like, I feel like people, it's what we talked about it the other day. I'm trying to remember exactly when the guest was on, but we talked about, I think it was the first day, infertility, and how, and then we ended up talking about miscarriages. And I brought up how we went through a miscarriage, my girlfriend and I, and it hit my girlfriend. And I think as it does, probably hits a mother more than a father, but I think it hits both of us, but it hits her more because it's inside her body. And she was really struggling with it. And the only people that really knew were my mother and my grandmother. And all of a sudden, she starts bringing it up to her friends and that, and finding out that almost everybody she knew had at least one miscarriage. Like, it was way more common than she realized. And, and when we were talking about that here, the idea came up that, if we were willing to talk about it more, we would realize, like in this case here, we would actually get more support from people, because it wouldn't be such a stigma. And the interesting part is that we talked as well about how it's hidden, because even with that, people say, and my girlfriend said this, but people say, and it was actually Kate, the guy who said it, and her husband even said it with their fourth child, that, let's not tell anybody until we're 12 weeks along. Now I'm still talking with the pregnancy and miscarriage. But when you do that, you're basically, and again, there's no right or wrong, obviously, and Elise pointed out, if you put it out there, then you're putting more positive energy on it. But the other side is, when you don't, you can't hear us? Oh. When you don't put it out there, though, I find the challenge is then people don't know that to support you. So then you're going it on your own. So my girlfriend and I, lost his first baby when we were trying. And at first we were going it alone because nobody knew, because she didn't want to put it out there until it was past a certain time. So nobody knows to support you, because they don't even know you were pregnant and lost the child. But people say, don't do that, because then you'll have to tell people you lost the child. But if you don't, you're going through it alone. So I bring all that up. That was a full circle way to say, I feel like the more we talk about this stuff, the more support we get for this stuff.
Yeah. And the more we talk to each other, we recognize we're more alike than we think.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those personal experiences, and, recognizing that, we are really made up of a world of incredible human beings that are doing the best we can with where we are and what we know.
Yeah.
From both sides, even as crazy as that might sound, like there's just so much that we don't know. And we talked about this too throughout the week, or I bring it up, it comes through me a lot, that, having personal experiences is really the only way that we can have an understanding and a perspective that's our own, and taking on the theys and the thems and the stories that you hear, and this one said this and that one said that about that one. That's really, that's the pandemic. That's what's really taking over globally and creating what I call disease. That's the true pandemic. So, just recognizing that we're just all doing the best we can, and we're human. And who said this, that I know that I've seen the bumper sticker, we're all something, spiritual beings having a human experience, but one of our guests said it in a way that really hit home with me. And it's like, we're trying to figure out how to be human. Like, forget about we're having a human experience. We're just trying to figure out how to be like 2 or maybe even 3-dimensional at this point, right? Because we are so much more than that packed into this. So, sharing our experiences personally brings about an awareness to somebody else to say that, you're okay. You're doing the best you can.
Yeah.
So if we switch gears, Gloria, COVID, you mentioned COVID and how it was a bit of a struggle, especially for your son. I'd like to maybe go there for a second and see overall, if you reflected on COVID and what it's done to your life, what does that look like? And I say that because we've had people on the show where COVID made them switch gears and pivot, and it became the best thing that could have happened to them in terms of just what it did for their business or career or their life. We've had other people who talked about how COVID brought some blessings, and we've also had people that talked about how COVID really hammered them hard. And so there's been both perspectives. I just love to hear how you fared through it.
While working for Alberta Health Services, of course, we're having to wear the mask all the time. And so that's been a bit of a challenge at work. And my son was actually in a little program that they had through Alberta Health Services that he could go from 9 to 12 every day, and they had to shut that down. And so, you know, I'm hoping that maybe down the road they will open it up, because it gave him a social outlet, so that he just loved it. You know, some of the people were a little bit older, but, you know, he got to go somewhere every day. And so he was enjoying that. And, but now, you know, he's been at home, and I mean, he does find he loves to draw. He loves to do models. Like you know, his right hand he doesn't use, but he sure has adapted, you know, that way very well to doing what he can do and what he enjoys to do.
And
that's awesome.
And so as a family as well, I mean, obviously you would be impacted even perhaps more than some because of being in the healthcare field. So you probably even have more restrictions when you came home, or, you know,
Yeah.
So I'm curious as well on the family dynamic side, like, was it something that you found that you adapted to okay and adjusted to okay, or was it a real struggle?
No, I just make sure that, you know, some days it was like, you know, pretty much take your uniform off outside almost. And, you know, in the beginning we didn't know, right? And so showering all the time and doing all of that and making sure I'm not bringing anything into the home. And since that, I've had, you know, both my vaccine. We're one of the first ones to get it, just because of, and right or wrong, I mean, you know, people are saying, well, I'm not getting it. And, you know, right or wrong, I did it for, you know, what was best for me. And you know, my husband has got his first needle, and we'll see when Byron gets his, like, you know, but yeah.
Yeah. I mean, and I feel like Elise always says, you know, eyes on your own paper. And so I feel like, you know, in terms of the vaccine, I mean, I won't even go there today. I just feel like it's a personal choice, period.
Yeah. And that's how I feel it, you know, and, you know, we were kind of strongly encouraged at work to, you know, kind of do that, because I do work with an elderly population as well. And so, you know, let's try and protect who we can, is what I'm feeling.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So how long have you been on this journey? Like, when did you write the book? Like, how long has the book been out?
The book has only been out actually a year.
Oh, wow.
It was, yeah. And then the other one was out last year in September. And well, and then that just kind of brings up another thing. It was about a month ago, I got a Facebook friend request from someone, and I recognized the last name as my maiden name. I did not know who this person was. And so I kind of waited a day, and then I said yes, I would. And she said, thank you so much for friending me. And as it turns out, she actually had married one of the brothers. She is from the States. She basically was not in a good place, is what I can say. And we helped her get out of that situation. And so we moved her stuff, and with help from a friend in the area, and we have now got her back to the States. And so I guess I feel that I've healed if I can help someone else in that situation. The common denominator was him, but she just said, like, why did you not turn your back on me? And I just said, you know what, I've been there, so I totally understand. So she just actually last Wednesday got back to the States. And so yeah, it was, yeah,
that's amazing.
She is my sister, you know, like, she is my sister-in-law, but I think we're sisters now. It's, you know, we just ended up helping
on a bigger scale, sisters.
On a bigger scale, sisters.
Soul sisters.
Yes.
So how did she know to reach out to you?
Well, I asked her, how did you find me? And she said, well, actually, she had looked at my mom's obituary and saw my name on there. And so she dug a little deeper and then searched on Facebook to see if I was on there. Basically, the only thing that she had been told by him was that I was one of the adopted sisters, and that that was the biggest mistake my mom and dad made. That kind of stung a little bit for about an instant. And then I thought about it and it was like, yeah, actually, he's right. Mom and dad did, meaning well, did put us in a situation that wasn't great, but it was, it's how you look at it, I suppose. And, but she did reach out to me and we helped get her out of there.
So she probably saw that you wrote the books.
No, she didn't. Yeah, she did at that time. She had, my first interview actually was on Divas That Care. It's a lady here in Alberta that started that. And so I interviewed. And so then she messaged me and said, was my husband one of the abusers? And I said, yes. And so then things really kind of switched for her. And yeah, she was not in a good situation at all.
Wow, that's an amazing story. So all of this comes around and you really are making the impact like that you set out to make, not just for your inner child, but for anyone else in situations like that. That's a great story.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not a great story, but it's a great ending.
A great ending. And what I thought
not so good.
So, I think we will remain very close. And I know, things are maybe not over for her yet. I don't know if she's going to have to come back here for the divorce or what she's going to have to do. But yeah, she's always welcome here. That's for sure.
Oh, that's amazing.
And I feel like one of the things that we don't talk about often in that area is, as we know, when people come forward, it can go various ways, meaning like the person that comes forward can actually be almost grilled like as if they're the person that did something wrong. Yeah. And so I think that's also why it's so brave when people come forward.
That's the one thing that I feel that, if somebody does tell you that something happened to them, like absolutely believe them. In court, it was the Crown prosecutor said to me, he said, "Oh, I absolutely believe you." And he said, "I want to tell you this. My mom just told me this week that she had been abused. And the first words out of her mouth was, 'Don't tell your dad.'" And so, I said, he said, I was pretty much the oldest one that had come forward through that court. Because I was in my 50s. And so he said, yeah, I said, that's the biggest thing, is to be believed. And, because why would I make up a story like that?
Yeah, like I'm thinking, why would anyone make up something
I hid
so
it very well, I feel, for a lot of years, or at least I thought I hid it very well. Well, I must have. Except, maybe if people really had looked, they could have seen that there was, something going on. But
also your mom had 10 kids?
Yeah. Yeah. Some of the older ones were already out of the house and married by the time we got in there. But yeah, there was still enough of us, kicking around. That's for sure.
Yeah. There's a lot of attention to go in a lot of places.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. We were just talking about this last night. My girlfriend and I about, in terms of the way even family was years ago compared to now, like how we were talking about, a relative who's selling a house where my cousins grew up in, and there were 8 of them, and it's a 3-bedroom house. And you don't even think of that today, because there's almost most families are quite a bit smaller than that. So you always hear now people say, well, we have 2 kids and us, I guess we should buy a 4-bedroom or 3-bedroom so that the kids each have their own rooms. That wasn't even a thought back then. How do you have a 10-bedroom house or 12-bedroom house? And so, we don't even think of it. It's so different now. The world compared to what it was like, then, as you mentioned, there's always, at least just mentioned, there's always something to look after, because it's quite a different dynamic when you have 10 kids versus like my mom who had 1 child.
Yeah.
So
I had 1 child, and that was enough to look at. I guess you get what you can handle.
Well, I have 2, but they're 7.5 years apart. So it was kind of,
wow. 7.5 years. Oh yeah. You mentioned that your oldest was 14.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. We have 3.5 and 8-month-old, and that's hard enough. Like I don't even know if we could survive. It's terrible to say, because again, my grandmother had I think 14 kids, and had them all, none adopted, all. And but on both sides, by the way, 12 on the other side, 14 on one, 12 on the other. And I'm 2. I'm oh, we're maxed out. I don't know how I don't know how somebody can do it when the division is that there's more kids than adults. We were like, stop at 2 because then we're equal. There's at least as many of us as them. But yeah, it was a totally different world back then.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, I don't, and that's the other thing too. Like, Lisa always says people are doing the best they can with what they have and what they know. And so, like, for example, with our parents and stuff and our grandparents, I mean, when you're watching that many children, like I think of my grandmother and stuff, there's all kinds of stuff that went unnoticed because how could you keep track?
Mm-hmm.
You're like 14 kids. I mean, to your point, the oldest one is raising the younger ones at that point.
Yeah.
And that's what happened too. Like all the older siblings, like my grandmother was the one who raised probably about 8 of the children, while my great grandmother went out to work.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's just a different world.
So I have a personal question, and you can, decline if you feel so. About holding in such a huge secret for so many years, right? Until you were 19, you said. Was it that there's so many factors that come into play, but if you think about, that version of you, did you feel that if you did that, maybe because you were adopted, that maybe somehow you would lose out on being there, and maybe they wouldn't want you anymore? I'm just going to be
absolutely. That thought really was there. Yeah.
Because as an adopted, I have a lot of clients, younger children who are adopted, really, that seem to be a magnet. And there's that internal conflict between, feeling like you were given up or abandoned, but at the same time you're chosen, like you're like somebody picked you right out of, so you're chosen, but yet there's this internal kind of conflict going on. So I was wondering if you think that came into play more than if, they were your parents. Would you have maybe felt more comfortable, safer, sharing?
Yeah, well, we were told by the boys that if we said anything that mom and dad wouldn't believe you, and that they would believe us over you. And so, I mean, that was really true. I did always feel it was always our children and Gloria and Susan. And so that really did, there was a division, and we always felt that division. So, I mean, I didn't say anything to my sister actually till I had already had my oldest son. And it was one afternoon of having a few drinks that I asked her, and, if something had happened to her, and she said yes. And so that was the first time that we actually had admitted it to each other. And it still took another 6 or 4 years before I actually went into counseling, because I started drinking pretty heavy, and I had just had Byron, and I had split from their dad. And so, yeah, things kind of got a little heavy there for a while. And so I kind of did enough counseling just to kind of take the pressure off, I feel, and then really did, then look at something. I had the opportunity to go to England with a friend's mom, because there was supposed to be 4 of them in the group, and they were in their 80s, and the lady had broke her arm. So my girlfriend asked me if I had a passport. I said, yeah. And so I actually flew from Calgary to England and met them there. And when I went to Scotland, I really felt like I had gone home. My dad on my natural side is Scottish. And so I actually went to Edinburgh Castle, and it's called the House of Stuart. That was my last name. And I felt like I went home. And when I got home, within 4 days, I had gone to the police station and told them my story, and had, them charged. So it just felt that I needed to complete. It took a while, but I just really needed to have some closure on that, and to say it's okay to. I know how difficult it was to go there, and I know how come so many people don't come forward, is because either they feel like they're not going to be believed, or I went through the court system, and it was like, well, I mean, the judge did say, well, with that many people in the house, how could that happen? I mean, mom and dad weren't there all the time, and so I just feel, that if, I can at least help one person, you know, some kid to have a voice, you know, even at 6 years old would be, you know, that they don't have to go through that.
Absolutely. So do you see yourself working with children in the future?
I really have. I worked at Parkland School in Red Deer. They're special needs kids, and I really do enjoy that. But I'm not really sure where I'm supposed to be going. But I know I've taken a lot of different healing modalities and things like that to heal, you know, me as well, and to learn, you know, maybe speak, you know, and speak out and.
Mm-hmm.
I'm
sure there's a lot of organizations and groups that would definitely benefit from you coming and sharing this story. And also now you're at a whole new level, like helping people who are in situations,
Yeah.
you know, be able to extract themselves from that environment.
Mm-hmm.
And so, Gloria, I always like to ask one key question, as Elise knows. She's gotten familiar with this now. This week especially, I've really focused on it. But it's the time machine question, I call it. And essentially, it's the question of, if you could go back in time, I mean, and you can pick the time. I don't put any kind of like it should be this time in your life or what have you, but go back in time to some point in your time to a younger Gloria, and in a time machine, and you could give her one piece of life advice based on what you've learned in the years since. What would you tell that younger Gloria?
I would have had a voice, I think, a lot sooner. I would have, you know, dealt with things a little bit like what's going to happen. To me, it would be better to have a voice younger and to get rid of some of that stuff and that baggage, I suppose it is, and just be brave. But I think it's part of my story. You know, it made me a tougher Gloria, and a stronger Gloria, and I think a kinder Gloria, to be honest.
Yeah, we've asked that question this week. You know, a lot of people say they wouldn't jump in the time machine, or they would say, you know, what you're doing is right, you know, and you know, don't try to change who you are and stuff like that. So, and of course, a big part of it is you had to go through that journey to become the person you are today.
Yeah.
And so it is a common theme we hear. And Elise wouldn't necessarily know this, but Gloria is in bLU Talks Volume 3 as well.
I Googled her while we were chit-chatting, and I saw all of it. I'm like, oh yes, I see.
Yeah, so check out her story in bLU Talks Volume 3 as well. And Gloria, the only other question I'm going to ask, and I think Elise may ask her main question, but the only other question I'm going to ask is, if people wanted to reach out to you to connect, to learn more, maybe share their story, whatever that looks like, where would you normally send them? Like, is there a place you would direct them?
I guess email would be good. I'm on Facebook, obviously, and I do not have a website yet. I am looking at probably going to start that, because I like all the healing modalities I do. I feel that that's one of my next steps as well.
So have you ever tried EFT?
No.
EFT is one of the, oops, sorry. I'm like, okay, I'm here. Because we use EFT a lot for post-traumatic stress, for things that are stuck in your subconscious. You kind of get like stuck in there, but it does help disconnect, not necessarily the memory, but the emotional response to a lot of post-traumatic experiences. So I was curious if that was one of the modalities that was something that you tried along your journey.
And
no.
Gloria, I'm not sure if you're familiar with the term EFT. You might know it as
emotional freedom technique, or tapping.
Is that tapping?
Yeah.
Yes.
That's tapping. Okay. Yes. I have not. I did it once, I think.
Well, that's like flossing once.
I know. So it was like, you know, I could maybe look into it a little bit more. It might be a good way to.
If you want to have a conversation about it, please reach out to me. I'd be happy to answer any questions you have. I'd be happy to give you any resources that are available that I think that might lend to your journey, and not only your journey, but to those that you're helping along their journey as well. So feel free. I'm a resource for you to tap into.
Okay. Well, thank you.
In that front. Yes, you're very, very welcome. It was an absolute pleasure meeting you. And I do have a question for you because I know you've been through this incredible journey and you've come out here blooming and blossoming in the way that you are. We talk a lot about in Flip Your Script coaching, I talk a lot about these thought weeds and belief weeds that we have that are rooted from a very young age, if not even from conception. And once we use EFT as what I call the dental floss for emotional plaque to pull some of these weeds, I like to help my clients start to reset, flip the script, the internal linguistic script, by planting a new perspective, a new seed of thought, or a new way of thinking. And I call them mind seeds. So I'm wondering if you have maybe a specific mind seed or a seed of perspective that you could share with us, that when our listeners may plant that in their mind, that they can start growing a life that they love and maybe love themselves a little more in.
I think gratitude is a big one. Start every day with gratitude, and just be thankful for the life you have, and be thankful there's people that you can lean on if you need to, and
Absolutely.
people are always open to hearing your story. I think it's getting better. I'm sure some of my friends are probably tired of me speaking about it, but it's something that, I think the more I speak, the more easier it gets for me. And so, I mean, there's emotion behind it, but at least, I'm not crying or.
But yeah. So thank you so much. So have gratitude and recognize that we all have somebody that we can speak to, and it's our choice to take that step, right? It's our choice to, make that first move and say, hey, listen, I trust you enough to share this with you, because you know what? We all love to feel like I'm speaking for myself, but if somebody trusts me enough and feels comfortable and safe in my presence to share something that's that deep and rooted in them, and they've been carrying something like that, that's a gift to be able to give to somebody else as well. Yeah. So, right. We're all like, wow, I feel blessed to be that sounding board, to be that for someone. So we all have that someone, but we also have to make the choice. Like we were talking about being gracious receivers. It's kind of like the flip, like, okay, well, if we don't share, then how can we give the gift of somebody else to feel that special and trusted with your story?
Right.
So I love meeting you. I'm here for you to share any EFT or tapping information that you might be interested in. And I'm excited to see how you grow and how your story unfolds.
Thank you.
Amazing. And Gloria, as we always do, especially with the special guests we have on this programming, I just want to call it a to be continued, because I know your story is going to help so many. So we'll do what we can to help you get it out further and far and wide. So I want to thank you and honor you for coming and joining us today. And we will wave the flag for all the great stuff you're doing.
Okay.
Stay warm and have a great weekend.
Okay. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Gloria. Appreciate you.
Thank you. Bye.
And I'm going to bring our next guest right on, just so we stick close to time. So
look at him with his NYC urban background going on. A little metropolitan action going there.
Yeah, it's fantastic.
But where are you really?
I'm actually in Washington, D.C., Maryland area. That is definitely not my background, but I just love it to death. It helps me out. Gets that creativity flowing when I'm facing it, right? So I like that.
Absolutely. Where is that? New York City?
That's right.
I just saw it on Amazon. I'm like, yeah, here we go. Let's go with that.
There you go. There you go. I'm on the 29th floor. Yeah, you're on the 29th floor with an unobstructed view.
There we go.
I have to say, just before we jump in, the backgrounds are getting so good now that I figured, I was 99% sure it was a background, but I still had that seed of doubt. They're getting so much better now than, the ones where your head's stuck in it, and when you move, you can see. Like, I mean, they're getting a lot better. So anyway, I was a 1% that could be your real background.
It is here. It is.
Yeah.
There you go. I'm from New York City, so it brings back memories. So I get to look at it. So thank you.
All right.
Makes me feel like I'm at home.
Forget about it.
Forget about it.
So, Mr. Collier, thank you so much for joining us today. So excited to have you here. And you've probably seen what we typically do to kick things off is we get the guests to tell us a little bit about themselves for those that are seeing or discovering them for the first time. So we'll let you kind of take it away if that's cool and tell us a little bit about yourself. And then, of course, we'll dive in a lot deeper anyway.
All right, cool. Well, first, please call me Eric. Mr. Collier, that's my dad. He's
Eric, it is.
Cool.
But, you know, I am somebody who believes that, you know, a lot of the things that I've gone through got me here today. You know, I've gotten what I consider a strong mindset, and it's because of the things that I went through. I'm the middle of 3 children. My parents split up when I was 4. And one of the things that I've gotten to witness is watching her go through so many different things, challenges. You think of somebody who wasn't really the head of the house, and she's taking care of 3 children. And she talks about $10,000 is what she made one year taking care of 3 children. So you can imagine with myself and my brother who loved to eat, how tough that was. And so I got to see how resilient she was. And she would go out and clean houses. She would go out and do whatever she needed to do to make sure things would happen. And that my dad did the same thing. He worked 2 and 3 jobs. And so I look at it as what they instilled in me was, you know, you got to do what you got to do until you can do what you want to do. And so that was something that I've learned and incorporated when I started building my family. Something else that I've learned from that whole experience is, you know, I've been able to adapt and adjust and overcome. That's been the huge part of my life. And so whatever we go through, that's something one of the models I like to use is I just keep pushing, because I know that eventually opportunities will come up and things will change. You know, the momentum will swing in my way. And so going through the time where my parents remarried and we had to do, we were going with the blended family life, you know, where everybody's trying to fit in on different households. And either household, the difficulty was not being wanted in either one. And so we had to learn how to deal with that. We went through a lot in that. But I look at it as for a while there, it was something that I held, man, I was angry about that, man. I was ticked because I love my mom, and there was a bond between my mom. I love my dad. There was not a bond, but a barrier.
A barrier.
There we go. A barrier.
A block.
Like, yeah, exactly. And so it was a difficult time for us. And so I held that against my parents and even those individuals for a while. But I learned that, you know what, that taught me some things, to be resilient on my own, to be strong-minded, to understand that I've got to do what I got to do to make things happen for me and to accomplish what I want to do. But even at the age where I had found myself at 30 years old, married with 3 children, I still wasn't clicking for me. And I had an individual basically point out that, dude, over the last 5 years of your life, you haven't done anything. And he was right. I had no dreams. I didn't have any goals. I had no vision as where I wanted to go. I was just going through a daily grind, right? What I call the hamster wheel of life. I get up in the morning, go to work, do the things with the kids, homework and all that stuff, and then start it all over again. And then, oh, thank God it's Friday. So I wasn't doing anything to work on myself, but that changed. And since then, I've been committed to living a larger life, and I love it, man. I love it. It's been a struggle, though. If you're familiar with dialing in an old radio, you know, sometimes you get it just right, and then sometimes it's fading in and out, and that's where it is. And but I've learned to live in that, embrace it, and, you know, figure out how to get it right.
Now, are you a DC dude? Like, were you raised in DC, or you said you were in DC? So I got the back end from his.
No, I am not. I'm from a little town, Danville, Illinois, which is right on the state line of Indiana and Illinois.
Hey, is that like right near the Great River Bend?
What is it?
Nauvoo. You know where Nauvoo? Yeah, you know where Nauvoo is? Like it's in Indiana or whatever. Anyway, we've been RVing and we took the Great River Bend from Potosi, Wisconsin. And we
Okay.
were at a point at this, it's the Mississippi River that kind of flows through. You follow the river, I guess, and
Right.
it crisscrosses with, like you can crisscross over Indiana, Illinois. Is that
Okay.
kind of where you were? Like,
I would say you're probably right there if that's where you're at. The Wabash River, all of that down
yes,
there.
because I was like, what state are we in now? Like we like kind of check out what's going on.
Right.
I think I remember being there on the journey down to New Orleans.
The cornfields. There you go.
Lots of them. Thank God we were in a little 19.5 foot, motorhome, because when you took a wrong turn, the app for this Great River Bend was just a green line on an app, and it had a map and you had to follow the green line. And if you turned your head away from the app and you weren't on the green line anymore, you were in cornfields like that. And to make a U-turn in an RV in cornfields is definitely a challenging task.
Oh, I bet.
So, Eric, one of the things that I caught that you said there is, the change starts to happen, and even though there's been a lot of tough turns, you're loving this right now. And and Elise wouldn't necessarily maybe know this because she's meeting you for the first time, but I saw one of your posts that you get to share the bill at an upcoming event with both Les Brown and our good friend of the show here, John Tellerico. So how did that come about? And that's got to be a pretty exciting thing.
Man, that's been something that's on my list since I met Les Brown and since I started this personal development journey, man. And so it's a privilege and an opportunity. I'm so grateful for that opportunity, man. It's awesome. Man, I found out and I'm like, yes. And John Tallarico, working with him, man, that dude is bad too. So so 2016, when I took your course in 2016, 2017, right? I was interested in the TED Talk because I was introduced to it in my job, but I've always wanted the motivational speaking side of the house, right? But there's been this fear, like I said, dialing it in. There's been this thing here. I've got that barrier I had to overcome. But last year, I've been working 2 jobs, as a result of layoffs and et cetera. But I freed up time. This COVID thing, people say, man, it's doggone COVID. I'm loving it. I've had an opportunity to do some of the things that I've always had to push aside because of my time. Right. And so what I've learned, I started when I was working out, was I've got to manipulate my time or be able to be effective with my time the best I can. So working 2 jobs, I got 12 hours. So I got a little bit of time in the morning if I get up at 2:30 in the morning, and I got a little time at night when I come home to work on it. So with this time that I was given, I started taking Les Brown's Prodigy course that he was in. All right, he was hosting. And I'm like, all right, cool, this is neat. And so then they came up with the Power Voice. And I'm like, man, I got to get on this. I get to work with him every week, and this is going to be cool. And so I had just started. The funny thing is I had just started in March of last year posting videos. And so being comfortable with putting my workout in front of everybody. And so this was a great opportunity. And I've been in it since last year, and I'm all in, man. I love this. This is motivational speaking, man. When the day I met Les Brown and he told me I had greatness in me, that was a wrap, man. I was like, okay, this is what I want to do. This is how I want to make people feel. And I was in that process where I was coming out of my being stuck, working on me and working to find out who I was. That was something. Once my dream of playing Major League Baseball was gone, and I started, having a family, my son was born, my wife and everybody were there. It became, okay, this is the life I need to live now. The one that my parents always told me about, where I got to get a good job with the benefits and then retire at 60 some years old. Right. And so I didn't believe a lot was going to happen for me because I only had a high school diploma. So I just kind of looked at it as I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. Oh, I'm struggling every paycheck. Well, that's part of life. My parents were doing the same thing. This is what I do, And so it's been a great opportunity to be able to meet Les Brown and read his book and just learn from him, man. And John, like I said, John is a bad dude too. Some of the things that I learned from John, man, a lot of the things I learned from John is just connecting. I've always been somebody who wants to connect. Right. My mom would tell you at the age of 4, when we were in the airport, she said, I wanted to go in the bathroom by myself. She said, look, I'm going to let you do it, but you go in and you get out. She said, she's standing there waiting. She said, finally, I got to look and see where my son's at. She said, she opened the door and she said, I'm in there telling everybody about my dad and how my dad this, my dad that. And she said, I'm just a talker. And that's where I've been for years, man. I tell people all the time, it's funny. I've worked in different organizations, and one name that I always get is the mayor, right? Because I love people. I really enjoy working with people. I just love, if I see you walking down the hall, I want to know what you have going on, right? If you look like you're thinking about something, I want to know what it is, because there might be an opportunity to be able to get you out of wherever it is that you're thinking this might be bad, or you might be stuck with understanding how to solve the problem, the opportunity in the problem. So I just want to get your mind off of it for a second and maybe, say, get a smile on your face, find out what's happening. So I just love to connect. And so John taught a lot about that connecting into your results. And that's, man, I love it.
I have to share something very powerful here. At least hope you don't mind. I just want to jump in one thing just to continue on. When you mentioned that with Les, one of the things that happened that I've only shared, I think, once ever on like our 200 conversations on bLU Talks, that Les said. So he said one thing when the camera's on, and that's on my like promo video. I went to John and said, "Hey, do you think Les is cool if I share this?" And he went and asked him, and so I have Lisa Nichols, something she said and something Les said on my video. But I had turned the camera off before he said one other thing, and so I don't share it often because I know it was more just between him and I. It wasn't meant to be captured on camera or anything. But I want to add this here because we don't realize sometimes how big an impact our words can have. We talked yesterday with Paul about how one of his mentors didn't necessarily have the impact Paul has had, but right. He was the person that started it all. And I talked about how PC Merrill did that for Zig Ziglar. And you mentioned how Les said you have greatness inside you, and that lit something. And one of the things he said to me, he said 2021 and 2022 are going to be your years. And he said, do you know what? Actually, he said 2020 and 2021. And 2020 was one of my, even though COVID was there, it was one of my best years. And he said, do you know why I say that? And I said, no. He said, because you reek of love, my friend. And when he said that, it made me dial it up to 10. Wow. Meaning it made me want to serve even more heart-centered. It made me want to go next level. And so what I'm getting at is we don't realize sometimes the things we say to somebody, how big of an impact it can have.
Right.
And he might have realized that, but I'm just saying he just put it out there. It was camera was off. It was just between him and I. But that even now, I get goosebumps to think about it because this is somebody I watched for years and looked and said, imagine if I could impact people like he does. And for him to say that to me, it made me want to dial it up.
That's so you, Corey. Somebody says you reek of love, and all you want to do now is like get more love and give it, as opposed to being like, ooh, now I can kind of hang out and all this love I reek and enjoy it and embrace it for like 5 minutes. No, your response is, now I want more. Now I'm going to give more.
No, well, you know what, though? In the car on the way back to the hotel, I embraced it.
Okay, good. You gave yourself 5 minutes of... I already am enough.
I gave myself about a week. Shelly would tell you probably about a week to just sit with it. But then it just kind of made me go, you know what? Not that I need to go up another level, but it just made me want to. It's like, you know what? If he's feeling that, then I want to even go more heart-centered and I want to serve more people. And I just, like it seemed like it flicked a switch for you as well. So I just wanted to highlight that rather than us gloss over it, is that sometimes, like you said, you see the person in the hall and you say one thing, you don't know if that's going to turn them on to the point where they start finding their purpose the next day. I mean, so don't ever discount saying something to somebody just because you think it's small or won't.
And even if you just think their shirt's cute.
That's right.
Like your outfit, dig in your glasses, great smile.
Well, I say, you might think it's small, but there's a great quote that says, if you think you're too small to make a difference, try going to sleep with a mosquito in your room.
Mm.
Dang, try going to sleep with a mosquito in the RV that you're living in.
Right. But
there's not a whole lot of room for that mosquito to go, I'll tell you that.
He's pretty tiny, and I bet you he makes a difference in your sleep that night, right?
Oh, absolutely. I have a story. A quick mosquito story. All right, I'll just take really quickly. So we're RVing all over the country, and we're one night, and there's like mosquitoes like all over. We're like, we must have left the door open. Like it was just like mosquito haven, and they're buzzing and the lights on, and we're trying to. So we have a motorhome where you have the front cab and we have like a little kind of curtain so you can't see in the window. It turned out when we went to bed that night, we left the front windows cracked. We couldn't see them, like the passenger and the driver's seat. So we're killing these mosquitoes, and there's still more. Like, it's like, where are they all coming from? And we found out in the morning. So those mosquitoes are those little compliments that if you just leave the crack open, they don't even have to be that big. the compliments, just enough to say, hey, I see you.
That's right.
Even I see you sometimes is like enough. But
Yeah.
anyway, that was the mosquito story. And we just kept killing the whole night we were up, and they just kept coming and coming. I'm like, do we have do mosquitoes have nests? But anyway, the windows were open.
That's what it's like.
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, Eric.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt. But that's what it's about, right? Being able to help somebody. That inner joy that we're looking for, right? That's the beautiful thing about it. You know, when you realize what it is you're here on this earth to do, you just want to do more of it. And every opportunity to be able to put a smile on somebody's face to help them figure their way out. I say I coach, I mentor, and I farm because, you know, I like to plant that seed of change and to help people out. And when they see the light go off, that's huge to me. You know, that's
I know.
good.
It's kind of an addiction, isn't it, Eric?
It is. Yeah.
I'm addicted to the change that I see in others. I'm like, go look in the mirror right now because your energy just shifted. Like that layer just got peeled away.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
I like the term farmer. You know, we talk a lot about thought weeds that turn into belief weeds and then replanting them with mind seeds, you know, and our minds are fertile and soil doesn't really care what you plant in it, and neither does your mind. So whatever seeds of belief you're planting, they'll grow. Your mind's like, so if you planted a new seed of belief or thought, it'll grow.
Yeah. Yeah.
And sometimes even more quickly.
Right. And I believe I'm not here to help everybody. I'm here just to plant that seed because they may not want to listen to me. They may not be ready. I always say you eat when you're hungry, right? They may not be ready to eat what I'm feeding them, right? So I might not be the chosen one to help them. So with that case, I just plant a seed, change, and keep it moving. And eventually, when the light clicks on for them that, hey, I need to make a change, they remember something that I said, or it helps them. So.
Absolutely. Absolutely. So I see that you have Just Keep Pushing. Is that like a program that you have? Is that your perspective? Is that your philosophy in coaching?
That's the way.
Or is that just your mind seed?
That's my mind seed, my way of life. This is it. I just keep pushing because I want so much more for me, but I want more I want to be able to help others. That's the big thing on me, helping others accomplish what I've been able to accomplish. Now, granted, however you put that on the scale, well, I don't know. That's on you. But I know at the point where I was stuck and I was really didn't see a way out and I was just lost. Kind of what I say is, you know, scripture talks about having a vision and the importance of it. I didn't have one. So I was just out there, you know, a dead man walking. Right. So I just want to help people figure out why they're here so they can kind of live in their purpose. You know, that's huge for me. And not only that, I'm a father of 3. Right. I've been married 30 years. I'm a father of 3. I've got 6 grandchildren.
Wait, say that again.
I've been married 30 years. And
Did you say 30?
30, yes, ma'am.
You don't even look old enough. When did you get married? At 12?
Thank you. I'm loving you. Thank you. I just turned 52. So
damn. We're the same. We're the same. 50,
Really?
50, I'm 53.
How many grandchildren?
Now y'all know.
Yeah.
And how many grandchildren was that?
6.
Oh my God.
Yeah,
Dude, I thought your kids were like 5, 7, and 12.
I'm loving you. I don't know. No. They're my son who started it all off is 30, and I've got a daughter who be turning 28 and 27 and 28. So, yeah.
Mind blown right there.
Well, I think that comes back to finding your purpose and passion. And one of the other things you said
And
is
really good skin.
Yeah, well, but I think like one of the things Aaron said is he's always wanted to go and help other people and talk to people and stuff. I think that keeps you young myself. I truly do.
You know, this big smile I have on my face, man. I laugh, I joke. People tell me sometimes you're not serious about anything. I'm serious, but I just don't get caught all up in the woe is me. Oh my gosh. I just got to find the opportunity, or excuse me, the opportunity and the problem. That's my big thing. You know, I'm not perfect. Trust me. When I sit here and talk to you, trust me, I am under construction for life.
I mean, you're human too.
Perfect. Exactly. Yeah, I make mistakes, a lot of them. Yeah, and trust me. Ask my wife; she'll tell you. But,
She's got a list.
Exactly. But yeah, I just know that that just keep pushing. Ebbs and flows of life, man. Sooner or later, it's going to be on my end if I just keep pushing. Once I stop and sit on the couch and just give up, then nothing's going to happen. I look at it like connecting my life's puzzle, right? I'm on this journey playing this game to connect with the pieces of the puzzle that I'm trying to create. And in that, I've got to keep moving on. I got to keep connecting with individuals, and I've got to find those opportunities for me to do the things that I want to do, the things that I love to do.
Well,
and,
what do you want? Okay, Eric.
Yes, ma'am.
What do you name one thing you want to do? What do you want to do?
Man,
I want to know one thing you want to do.
You know, the one thing I want to do is I've been married 30 years. And so the funny thing is, when we first got married, I bought my wife this ring, and people would look at it and go, is there a diamond in that? And so at 30 years, I just gave her an upgrade, right? I gave her an upgrade. But the one thing that I've always wanted to do for my family is to be able to take them, travel, do whatever it is to treat them to whatever it is, they want. My big thing is to be able to spoil them like I've always wanted to, not necessarily how they see it, but how I want to be able to give them the things that I want to do in life. Now, with that is also a mindset of changing the narrative that you don't accept what life is giving you. You take what life is giving you and you spin it into what it is you want to do. And so with that, we change the narrative and create that generational wealth as well. And the purpose, the thought process of being a person of value and helping others in the whole thing. So that's where I'm at with it. That's my whole everything right there.
Now, did you catch at least something that?
Are we back? Oh no, you answered my question and I zapped out and now I'm back in. So I got that you want to have everything that you want, huh?
I was going to say, did you catch the other thing that Eric said there? I think you may have missed it, and it was so powerful. Eric, you said a little bit.
What was it?
Well, this is even just before that question. He said, all I can tell you is I'm under construction for life.
Yeah.
I love that. That's amazing. Like, beautiful. Like, we're all under construction for life, but I love it. I just love the visual of that. So that metaphor is brilliant. I just want to highlight that.
Yeah, I kind of, especially with your background. Look what you can be. You could be a whole city.
Exactly. And we get stuck sometimes because we believe that we should be perfect, that we should never fail, nothing should ever go wrong, nothing ever should happen bad for us. But man, that's a part of life. That's where you grow the most, right? What's that quote? Adversity introduces you to who you are. And so when you face the storms, like I like to say, when you go through the storm, that's when you find out how tough you really are. When I found myself in a hotel room 30 miles away from home in a city I didn't know, and my parents were at home and we were like not talking to each other, that's when I found out how tough I really was, man. I'm getting up every morning or every night, walking to a job I knew nothing about the city, and I'm paying my hotel bill, and I got very little left the next week. Hey, man, that's I learned a lot about myself. I can handle anything that comes to me. And then when you have the challenges you face with, like I said, your parents who you believe that got your back no matter what, and then you realize, man, they're thinking a different way, and you're like, whoa, hold on a second, that hits home. But you know what? You all you got. Everything starts with you, connecting with you, understanding why you're here, where you're going. Once you realize that, man, can't nobody stop you.
I hear you. Unstoppable.
There we go.
Another thing that you have on the go as well, Eric, is you are a columnist now with the new Life Quote Journal magazine.
Yes. I laugh because so at 30 years old, the only book that I had ever read from cover to cover was The Godfather, right? I was not reading, which is funny because when you look at my mom, my aunts, her side of the family, everybody read. They've got books and books and books piled up in the house. But I didn't like reading, especially if it didn't have pictures. I don't want to be bothered with that. But when when I started this personal development journey, the guy told me, he said, well, you know why they write books, right? I said, no. He said, because they put all the successful secrets in there. I was like, okay, well, I need to change. So I need to read this. So I started reading. And so now I've been asked to collab on books. And I've got the opportunity through meeting Maria through you to be able to join this article, Life Coach Journal, man. And it is hilarious that I'm writing. And that's how I'm connecting with people. So I love it. It's exciting to me, and it's crazy.
Well, you and I share something in common, because at least it's heard me say this before. I'm certain I didn't read my first book until age 27.
Okay.
So you're one of the few people I've talked to that was past my age and then now reads a lot. But my first book was first books I tried to read were The Three in School and Cujo. So technically, my first book I tried to read was Cujo. Similar, compare that more to The Godfather in terms of turned into a movie and all that. But my first book that I read cover to cover was How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. Okay. And here's the thing. Nobody told me the secrets to success and all the secrets are inside the books. My mom bought this book for a quarter. I went on a retreat and I had nothing else to do. And I was in the cabin with 3 other guys who were super negative. And I didn't want to be hanging out with them. So
what kind of retreat was that?
Well, it was a company.
It wasn't yours.
No, it wasn't my retreat. It was a company
retreat. Wrong. What kind of retreat was it?
It was like, no, I call it a treat, but basically we went training. We were going for training with a corporate Global 1000 company, and we just all went to the training camp.
Okay.
These 4 cabins.
So it was a training camp.
Yeah, well, during the day, we would go to the local university, and they were teaching stuff around sales. And then the evenings would go back to our cabin. Well, they put me in the cabin with the 3 young new guys who were just negative. They didn't even want to, they were just miserable because they were just starting. They weren't making money. They were getting rejected every day in sales. And I was like, oh my gosh, you put me with this much negativity. So I just basically grabbed the book because I'm like, I'm just going to do something so I don't feel guilty, not talk to them. And I say, oh, I've been wanting to read this book forever. Meanwhile, I'd never read a book in my life. And I got 2 pages into the Carnegie book and I was like, oh my gosh, this is what I've been missing. And I was pulled in and I read the book twice that weekend.
So actually it was a retreat for you.
Yeah, 100%.
Funny
I retreated from the negativity into my own little book world, and everything changed. And what's cool, and just to finish that whole story off, is about 4 years later, this group called the Dartmouth Learning Network brought me in to talk about the importance of literacy and reading. But that's the whole point, right? You get to grow and you get to share and pay it forward. And they're all like in the win there, they're like, oh my gosh, I wish I could do this and that. And you did all this and you were from a small town, and it was inspiring them to want to start reading. Because I told them, really, it all started with books for me. So you reminded me of that when you said started at 30.
Yeah, for me, I started reading, but trust me, I wasn't looking for the big books to read. And it just so happened I visited my mom down in Louisiana, and she gave me 3 books. I don't remember the third one, but the one was Les Brown's Live Your Dream, which was about this big.
Perfect size.
Right, exactly. And so then the other one was just a little bit, maybe about the same size, maybe a little bit larger. But then the third one was by Dr. Dennis Kimbrough, What Makes a Great Great. And I was like, nah, I need to find these little books to read because I'm just not going to read a 370 some odd page book. But I read everything. So that was the only thing I had left. And man, I started reading that book and it was like, whoa, wait a minute. Oh, this is awesome. And I read that book in a couple of days. It just stayed up at night and just kept reading, So it's funny how you fight those things that in your mind, you create this fear or this defense against, right? You don't want to do it. You're like, it's going to be too hard. It's going to be too difficult. And you're like, I'm not going to do it. And then you start doing it. You're like, oh yeah, this is awesome. This is the best thing I could have done. Like leg day, when I go work out, I can't stand a leg day, but after I do it, it's like, oh, this was great. This is cool.
What was that book called again, Eric? I missed the name really quick.
It's called What Makes the Great Great.
I'm going to put that in here, but I'm also going to look at that book.
Okay, so if we were to pull one mind seed out of what makes the great great for you, because this is your experience reading it and your perspective, what would make the great great? If there was like one thing that you remember from this book,
it's the overcoming the fear and believing in yourself. That's one of the things. If you read through a lot of the stories, it's overcoming the fear, that confidence that you need to go ahead and do what you need to do. I love Muhammad Ali. He's in the book, and he's one of the greatest self-motivators I've ever seen. Right. And so I look outside of Michael Jordan and Kobe, but I enjoy that mindset. I mean, rumble, young man, rumble. I mean, think about that, man. That's awesome. I am the greatest. To be able to call yourself the greatest before everybody else believes it or sees it, that's huge. And you have to be that person. I tell people all the time, I get up at 2:30 in the morning every day, right? There's no motivational speaker that's standing next to me and go, Eric, let's go do this. And I don't care who tells me they want to be my accountability partner, call me, we're going to work out together. Nobody shows up. And so you have to find a way to keep your.
I wouldn't show up either.
2:30.
You start working out at 2:30 in the morning.
I do, and that's where that mindset of I just keep pushing because no one's gonna do it but me, and that's the other end of that. I just keep pushing. So yeah, I get up at 2:30 in the morning. Either I work out on my body or I'm working out on my mind. One of the two. And
Eric and Mark Wahlberg and The Rock. Three of them are the only people that are up at 2:30 working out. My understanding.
Wow, 2:30.
Yeah, when I go to work and I got that 12, 13-hour day and 14 when you're out on the ride, I'm not coming home to work out. It's just not going to happen, you know. And if I do work out, I'm not going to be able to sleep. So yeah, it's not going to happen. So you start work. Actually, you and Mark Wahlberg and The Rock and my buddy Shannon are the only people I know that they get up at 2:30 and work out. So the four of you guys, if you said let's do it, you guys would probably all do it. But that's about. Are you familiar with Eric Thomas? Eric Thomas is a bad dude. I love Eric Thomas. I got a chance to see them here in the area, and man, I love it. Every time you say Eric Thomas, I think of what makes you up. I love it, man. He's a bad dude. I love it.
Well, at least you may remember me saying he's the guy that says, and he. The reason I brought it up is because I'm sure he'd be there with you at 2:32. I can start building a list of people that would be there probably, and Eric would probably be there. And one of the things he says is, "You want my life, but you don't want my grind."
There it is.
And I find that so true. So many people say, "I want what that person has, but I don't want to put in the work."
You know, I coach and mentor high school students. And when you tell people that when you know what you want in life, there's this point where you have to give something up to go get it. And that is a big fear, not just high school students, but adults as well, giving something up. You know, you mean to tell me I have to give up sleeping 12 hours a day on the weekends? Yes, you have to give that up because you got to handle your events, right? You got to be able to be efficient with your time. And so that's something that a lot of people don't want to do, is sacrifice that moment where I got to get up and do something I didn't like to do before. You know, that's big.
Yeah, Arnold Schwarzenegger, I heard him say one time during a speech, he said, if you can't do it in that amount of time, then sleep faster.
There you go. Yeah.
Sleep faster.
Sleep faster. I mean, it's big. When you look at what you want to do, you're looking for a big life change. You gotta start with a big life change. And if you're not willing to do that, right? It's not going to last long, right? You're going to get started. How many times have we started January 1? I'm going to lose weight this year. I'm going to fit into that whatever I'm going to fit into and look like what I'm going to look like. And it lasts about a week or two. I had a guy that I laughed at. He's a friend of mine, but I laughed. The second week, how's it working out going, man? How's your diet going? Oh man, I fell off the wagon. I'm gonna get started back in March. I'm like, in March? Wait a minute.
You're already skipping another month and a half.
So you know that mindset, man. You just got to make that sacrifice, that commitment. That's huge.
I don't start anything on January 1st at all, and the reason I don't is because now I'm past this now. But when I started it, I realized that it was too easy for me to quit. Because 90% of people quit in the first few weeks. So it's easy to just say, oh, well, it didn't stick. And so I said, if you feel that committed to it, start January 2nd. Just don't put that January 1st. Not only that, for people that are drinkers, who wants to start the day after you just celebrated all night? You just want to go eat McDonald's. You don't want to, if you eat McDonald's, if you eat it once a year, it's after that big drink after New Year's. And you don't want to start saying, I'm going to lose weight when you're hungover. I mean, I've never understood the New Year's thing of setting the resolution then, because what are the odds, right? The odds are really stacked against you.
And really a year can start from right now.
It doesn't have to be March. It can be whatever day you ask your friend, well, I jumped off then jump back on.
Yeah.
Get back in there.
That's right. I mean, at the point where I was 235, almost 240 pounds, a 40 size waist, right? And that's with the elastic band in it. I decided, you know what? I'm just going to get started here. And I believe it was around the September, October timeframe. The one main reason I wanted to start then is because I didn't want to be that person that was starting in January, right? but it was the biggest challenge for me because I am an eater. I love chocolate, cake, ice cream. I love all that good stuff, right? But it helped me because over that holiday season, I had to fight those demons to monitor my eating habits and to work on this to say, hey man, it's good, but you got, if you're going to eat it, it's going to be in moderation. It's not going to be that big chunk right there. I tell people my bowl of ice cream was a bowl of ice cream, where it was a bowl, and it had 2 of the chocolate and 2 of the moose track trails in there, and that was set over the top of the bowl. And that's how I would eat 9-10 o'clock at night and go to bed. So no longer doing that. But yeah, that's the challenge.
Yeah. So speaking of that, if you get up at 2:30 in the morning, were you eating it at 4 o'clock in the afternoon to go to bed at 5? Like, when do you go to sleep at night?
I end my day at 9. 9 is pretty much where I want to shut it down. If I stay up, I'll push it to 10. But yeah, 9 o'clock is pretty much it. Sometimes on cardio days, I might push it a little bit longer, but yeah, the majority of the time, 9 o'clock is a wrap for me, which is funny because I used to laugh at people. You go to bed at 9 o'clock. What are you doing? But yeah, it's because I now have something that I'm focused on. And that's the big part. When we don't have anything to focus on or to work towards, we're lost, right? We don't have that drive, but I have that waking me up every morning, because if I don't go to bed, then I'm tired. I can hurt myself while I'm working out. Right. The injuries come faster. You don't really heal. You don't really rest. And people say, well, that's only about 5.5 hours, if that. I was like, well, that's better than the 4 I used to get just hanging out and staying up late and watching TV all night. Right. So it's all good.
I was doing the math in my head. I'm like, that's only 5.5 hours. In my head. So, Eric, as we start to wind down, never enough time for this, but I was going to ask you that. You heard me ask the question in the last interview and been asked it all week, the time machine question. So I'll make it quick and ask you if you could go back and talk to a younger Eric. And I mean, you talked about all the transformations you went through since then. What do you think you might tell younger Eric?
Man, I would just keep pushing. That's the big thing for me. Just keep pushing, because in my 20s, when I wasn't pushing towards anything, right after my big workout with the Cincinnati Reds and all that, was like, you're not making it on this team. You know, it was kind of, all right, here I am. I'm a father, but I wasn't pushing towards anything because I didn't see anything else. I didn't know what else I had in me. I didn't even embrace the fact that the skills that I learned working so hard to become a baseball player, right? That commitment, that discipline, that consistency in my workouts, right? The leadership traits that I had in there, my ability to communicate as a leader on the team. So I didn't even tap into those skills and understand that those things could help me later on in life. So just keep pushing, because you find out so much more about yourself when you just keep pushing and never give up on yourself, man. That's huge.
Okay, so I'm Googling you now. So you were
I'm not the guy that's in jail. That's not me.
No, it's not you. It's not. That's not. I didn't go to the bin verified. I'm just looking at it right now. So wait, so you were a pro athlete?
No. I tried out for the Cincinnati Reds.
Okay.
And
I thought
maybe as far as we got. Yeah,
because I'm not, very sports,
that's
affiliated. I was like, did I just miss the whole thing?
I'll give you something else that really just recently hit home. And being serious about life, understanding that tomorrow's not promised, because in that 20s time frame, I was pushing everything to the right. There's always tomorrow. So I have a cousin that he and I shared the same name, Eric Collier, right? And just recently we had something come up where he passed away. And so imagine seeing your name, Eric Collier, in the obituary, right? Then we shared the same birthday. He was 3 years younger than I was, but we shared the same birthday. So when you look at that, you're like, dude, that could be you, right? And so you got to be serious and go for what it is you want in life, because it's not guaranteed tomorrow. Embracing the moment. I always love hugging my grandkids, my wife and kids, because you don't know, right? My dad says, he said, you can wake up and have bacon and eggs, but that damn sure don't mean you coming home to have steak and potatoes. So, the moment. So that's something that I would tell the young me too, man. Take it serious, because you only get one.
And enjoy the process, because that's if you just keep working for some goal.
Yeah.
This is what I'm telling the young Eric Collier. Like, enjoy the journey, recognize your value now in the process of becoming whatever it is that you think that you need to become to like yourself more, to be happier, to love yourself more, to feel more successful, to recognize your value more. Because otherwise, you're just pushing for something,
Right.
and the umami, you know, that like the perfect flavor blend of life,
Right.
we miss out.
Yeah. Yeah. I agree with you on that one.
So it's so important to taste the umami of the experience as you're getting where you're going.
Good.
So do you know what umami is?
No, this first
Okay,
time I've heard
so
that.
it's a Japanese word or term, and it's when you have the perfect flavor profile of like sweet, savory, bitter, and sour. It's that moose track that you just want to eat the whole container because it's not too sweet and it's not too salty and it's not too, it's just like that perfect mouthful for you.
Right.
Well, we can have that same. So I have my umbrella company is called Yum Life, YUMLIFE. And it really is all about embracing the umami of life in every experience. And so you can taste that, you can have it, but there's those moments in life that make you say yum.
Yeah. Yeah.
Those yum-filled moments. So I encourage you and your kids and your grandkids and the younger version of you to have and seek out those yum-filled experiences on your way to getting to where you think that you need to keep pushing yourself to go.
Right. Yeah, I like that.
And enjoy the bacon and eggs.
Heck yeah, and the steak and potatoes when you come home.
That's right. That's
like
right.
you said, you may not be coming home for the steak and potatoes the next night.
Exactly, man. Exactly.
I love that wisdom from your father. You have to.
Yeah, that's awesome. And that's fun and a little bit easy. You know, we're so serious about the serious.
Right.
And, you know, sometimes it's like, yeah, we already know. You know, we could feel the pressure. So having something like that, like, you know, might not be coming home for them steak and potatoes. So.
Yeah. And you know, like I said, it's something when you hear it first time, you're like, oh, that's funny, Dad. Ha 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 ha. But when you sit and think about it, you're like, whoa, okay, I get it now. I get it.
Exactly.
So Eric,
it's so awesome meeting you, Eric.
Oh, yeah. It was great being here. I've been looking forward all week. You guys are an awesome tandem right here. This is I've enjoyed it. I love what you're talking
Our little
about.
improv, you know.
Hey, you got to be free to flow with it, right?
Absolutely. Well, and Eric, one thing I want to make sure we don't have you run off without asking you is how can people find out more about you? How can they connect with you, learn more, maybe watch you share the bill with Les Brown, read your articles? Like, is there a hub or a place you'd send them?
So I would go to One Momentum Shift. That's my website, onemomentumshift.com. And on there, my different links are on there as well. The Life Quotes Journal is on Facebook. And then on Facebook, you can also find me under I Just Keep Pushing. And that's me, man. That's me. And I you know,
you
I
got
really
that serious face on your Facebook profile.
We're trying to. You know, it's funny. I've got the different ones, and it's just I just post them, man, and put them up there. The guy caught me in so many different faces. We were clowning around. So, but I really want to work and coach with individuals because, like I said, my belief is that you weren't put on this earth to fail. You weren't put on this earth to settle for throwing your pieces up and letting somebody else dictate how you're going to live. So I want to be able to help people to get that light bulb going and figure out where they want to go in life.
Listen, if you ever want to bring you and your family to Florida's Adventure Coast and push some kayaks and get on the bike path or do some hiking or running, let us know here at Manatee Landing Retreat, and we'd be happy to host you. And your team, you know, if you want to do a team building or something like that, this is a great place for you to get your game on at 2:30 in the morning.
I heard you talking about their place, man. I'm like, we got to go down there and see that.
Yes, check it out. It's Manatee Landing Retreat or Manatee Landing Everyday Retreat on Facebook. But I just friended you.
Okay,
so
cool.
When we become friends, I can share it with you.
But at least we're probably out there 2:30 in the morning, just so you know.
You're on your own.
Here's something I learned about Florida. Stay away from the bushes. Watch out for those snakes and gators. That's something I got to watch out.
Well, so this is the great thing about being here is that we are right on the Weeki Wachee Springs, and it's 72-degree water all year round. So those gators, they're on the other side of the water. Okay, so this area right here, there might be a snake or two, but they're more scared of you than you are of them. But the manatees are awesome around here. Yesterday we woke up, Corey, and we have a woman, Sharon, who is our vibe enhancement specialist, and she's up early. She's not 2:30, but early. and she's like looking out, and there's manatees and her mama and her baby, like literally right at the end of our canal. And they come up and breathe, and they do this like
Right.
And it was just amazing. It was the first time since we've been here that they were like literally like right off our dock.
Wow. My dad
So
would love it. He's a photographer. He would love that.
absolutely, you should see. I'll send you some links where you can send them to your dad, and he can see some underwater footage of these manatees that people take. Not me, but some people take. It's amazing. I'll share them with you.
All right. I'm looking forward to it. Thank you.
Awesome stuff, my friend. I appreciate you. Thank you so much for joining us today. You probably heard me say this throughout the week. I call it a To Be Continued because pretty much everybody we're bringing on here, this program is people we're going to, at some point in the future have on other shows or other things we're doing. So I just want to thank you so much for bringing such a great energy today. And
Definitely.
thank you. And I'm so excited to keep watching your journey as you keep on pushing.
Hey, thank you. I appreciate being here with the both of you, man. And Corey, I really do. I am grateful for you, man, keeping me in the loop after that training, because most people would just drop people off and just say, hey. So, man, you connecting back with me, I think is awesome. I enjoy watching you do your thing, man, as well with Blue Talks and how you've grown that with the book and now on Roku and Hulu and all the other stuff, man, the live streams that you're doing, man. So I appreciate you guys giving me the opportunity to share with you today.
Awesome stuff. And
Thank
just
you.
So know, Eric's going to be in one of the upcoming Blue Talks books. He's going to be speaking at one of the upcoming events as well.
Yeah. Can you believe that? Eric Collier going to be speaking at Harvard. Get out of here.
I can't wait to see that happen.
You grow, dude.
Yeah.
You grow.
Yeah, she says you grow, girl. So you grow, guy.
You grow, you grow, bro.
Hey,
there you go. I like that better. You grow, bro.
What is it? Babe in
so it's a bit, right? babe in total control of himself. That's what you would be.
There we go, right?
See, did you know that you could be a bitch too, Eric?
Hey, well, what do they call them? Mitches is what they used to call them. Mitch.
What is that?
Man. Instead of a B, they call it a man.
But men are babes too. I call my Elliot's my babe. So.
It makes me think of Seinfeld. They took like Manny for the male nanny and stuff. So yeah.
Hey, I'll leave you guys with this funny one. So
okay.
I'm not a grandfather. I'm not a granddad, right? I'm pop.
I right? Saw it on your thing.
So my middle grandson, he would run around and we didn't know what he was saying until we sat and listened to him. We thought he was saying, hey, but he kept going, babe. That's what he heard my wife calling me babe. So he kept going,
he's calling you babe.
So it took a while to get him to say pop, but it was the funniest thing.
Oh my God, that's too funny. Elliot had his team building here. Great place for team building. He came to me, goes, babe. He calls me babe. He's like, babe. He goes, what do you think about me bringing my team? He's a CTO for a tech company, and he had his guys for team building. They have a team building thing. So it's a good environment for that. And anyway, they came and they had a great time. And one of the guys ended up staying over because they had a company from before. And he's like, calling this guy babe. I'm like, did you just call him babe? And the guy's like, did you just call me babe? And he goes, I've been hanging out with Elise for so long, and like, because we're together all the time, and I'm just used to calling her babe. So he's calling his friend babe. He goes, just call me babe. So I get the babe.
It's just the meanings we put on the words.
Yeah,
that's too funny. Well, it's great having you, great chatting with you and all that good stuff. And I look forward to seeing all the amazing work and all the inspiration and motivation you're going to grow here.
Thank you. I really appreciate it. You guys are awesome.
You are as well, my friend. Thank you so much. We'll let you run, but we'll wave the flag for all the great work you're doing.
All right. You guys have a good one now. Enjoy.
You too. So Corey, I want to just quickly mention, I'm going to have to hop off around 2. Okay. Nothing personal to our next guest, but I got some stuff going on here. And so I just want to let you know in advance. I'm hanging out until 2, and I'll let you all know. I won't just disappear, but just giving you and everyone out there the heads up. Have a great weekend. Love you. I'm not leaving yet, but just in case I forget to say so.
Okay. So if you want then, because you'll be jumping off before we're done, and I have to go grab one quick thing if you don't mind. So, and we'll bring the guest. I know she's backstage. I'm going to bring you right on in 2 seconds. But I was going to say, do you want to kind of just share?
Yes, I'd love to hang out and get to know a little more and, do a little thing, and then you can take over and we'll be good.
Yeah. So how about I'll bring her on, and is that what you mean? And then you can jump right in with her, and then And then, yeah, we'll go from there. Okay, so I'm going to let you both start it, and then I'll be right back in 2 seconds.
Okay, we got this. Hello.
Hi, Lise.
How are you?
I'm doing well, and you?
I'm doing well as well. So where are you in the world? Where are we connecting from?
In Edmonton, Alberta. It's quite a ways from you.
Quite a ways, quite a ways. Yeah, I've never made it to Alberta in my journey, but it's on my list. It's on the map.
Well, I was in Florida last March, just pre-pandemic, made it back to Canada on time. We had a trip of a lifetime plan with my 4-year-old at the time to go to Disney World. We had an amazing 2-week holiday. It was booked a long time ahead, and we got back to Canada March 14th, just at the beginning of it all.
Like the day before almost, I feel like.
Yeah, we made it, but looking back, I'm so grateful we shared those moments, because I don't know.
You did make it to Disney.
We did, yeah. We spent lots of time Disney World, saw the parks, and that was my last holiday. It was a year ago. In your
Well, you know what? But you were at the Magic Kingdom.
Yes.
I love Disney. Living in Florida as a resident, you get this like Disney pass. So last year really was, well, maybe the year before because we were traveling, but I've always had like this Disney pass, and just, it's kind of a gift. You get just to go, well, what do you want to do? Let's go to Epcot. They have a concert series, you know, who's playing at Epcot, you know, we'll just go for a few hours. So yeah, very, very spoiled yet grateful.
Mm-hmm. No, that's
for sure. For sure. So Dr. Melanie, you are a doctor. I'm learning about you as we speak, just like probably many of our viewers. So Dr. Melanie Robinson, ND. So tell us a little bit about yourself and, you know, where you are now and maybe how you got to where you are.
Yeah, I'll do that. And you can address me just by Melanie, Elise. It's all good.
Okay.
So
can I just call you Doc?
Sure. Yeah, no, that's totally fine. So I'm an ND, which is a naturopathic doctor. I know a lot of people are not aware of this field of medicine. There's, I believe, 5 schools in the States and 2 schools in Canada to become a licensed naturopathic doctor. So it's minimum 8 years of post-secondary, and the program is quite similar to medical, like conventional medical training. I've been practicing for over 9 years, and I'm so blessed to be in this field. I knew I always wanted to help others improve their well-being. My goal was to become a pharmacist. I thought that was my calling. But bLU Talks book number 4, that'll be released soon, I wrote my chapter about why I became an ND, and my main inspiration is my grandfather, who this was actually his dying wish. He told me I would become a doctor. And it's a very powerful story that I share in that book. And I learned the meaning of those words years later when I discovered about naturopathic medicine that I never knew existed. So I explored it. It actually healed my chronic illnesses. I really suffered for years with asthma and allergies and IBS and anxiety, and naturopathic medicine over years and over learning more about how to help heal my body completely changed my life. And I've been drug-free for over 15 years. So there was a lot of signs, I know, from the universe guiding me to be an ND, not a pharmacist. And I'm really blessed to have chosen that path. And up to now, I've worked in 2 clinics. I'm in just 1 at the moment. It's a very busy practice. And my main niche, I guess, of who I help are women aged 35 to 45, really struggling with hormones, struggling with mental health. And those are the women that I primarily treat on one-on-one patient visits. I also suffered from postpartum depression and anxiety with my son, which I wrote about in book 2 of bLU Talks. And I've only been able to speak openly about it for 2 years. So he had to be he was 3 years old when I started talking about it openly, and that has helped me help so many other women that are suffering in silence, and it shifted the way that I practice my naturopathic medical practice. Ideally, like I said, I focus a lot on mental health and hormonal balance and really empowering women to learn how their bodies work and teach them and educate them how to use various lifestyle factors, supplements, diet to really empower them. And I treat a lot of kids as well. So often I'm treating their kids and the mom. It often starts with the mom, and then manifests into their kids or vice versa. So that's a little bit about me. I don't know if that answers your question.
That was very clear.
Okay.
I love it.
Great.
Got it. So I have a question for you in regard to I hear a lot about mental health, and I know that it's very important to have mental health. I look at it, and I'm a practitioner of what I call emotional and mental hygiene, right? Because without the hygiene, we really don't have it. The health comes from the hygiene of, right? Taking care of. So do you find that your patients come from a background of not recognizing that it's important to take care of that mental and emotional hygiene? If do you know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, and yes, actually, because I really look at the spiritual, emotional, mental, and physical, and usually the physical realm is the last kind of part of the.
Yes, that's like the symptom.
Yes, exactly. And like if you've been dealing with chronic rheumatoid arthritis, I'm not saying there's a direct link to some unresolved childhood trauma you've experienced, but
I would. No, I'm just kidding, but I would.
well, I mean,
I see it happening. Usually arthritis is old anger that hasn't been resolved or dissolved.
Part of why I'm bringing that specific, but I feel the average person may not understand that, or
right.
if I were to share that off the first visit, they'd be like, what? What did you just say?
Yeah.
But I guess I'm using that example because I treat a lot of autoimmune diseases, and in the first visit, I'm going to talk about their childhood, and I'll ask all these questions to prompt them about their mental, emotional journey. All my patients always have the question, have you ever worked with a psychologist or a therapist? And if the answer is no, then I ask why, are you open to it? So I don't know if that makes sense to answer your question there, Elise, but I'd say about 50% of the patients that I work with aren't aware to that degree of the whole mental, emotional realm. But then the other 50% have been on their healing journey for years, and sometimes I'm their last resort. So they've seen, like, you name it by the time they come to see me. So they're very aware. They're just missing key, like, pieces of the puzzle to get it all together.
I love that you incorporate who they are as a whole being in your journey to help them become a well-being. Right? Because that's so important to because that's who we are. The whole physical stuff gets manifested. It's still energy. It's just that I call it emotional plaque buildup.
Oh, I may start using some of your words here, Elise.
We can chit chat a little bit because so I'm an EFT practitioner, and so when I hear somebody has some manifested physical energetic disease, right? Because it already starts in the emotional mental hygiene. I already get I'm like, I don't know their story because I'm not that tapped in or tuned in. I'm not intuitive. I'm not psychic, but I always know that there is a story attached. And I had Guillain-Barré syndrome.
Oh, wow.
When I was 18. So big autoimmune disease.
Yeah.
And what I recognized on that journey, because it wasn't vaccine sort of activated, at least I don't remember having a vaccine at the time. I believe it was the emotional component, was that internal conflict between feeling dependent and wanting independence, and having that conflict internally. So I find it fascinating. I love working with chronic pain clients because there's a story. There's a whole, if you knew how to read body, and I'm sure you see that there's archetypes for people who come with urinary tract infections, if they're coming in with IBS. So do you find that you see that an archetypal pattern in people or story?
No, I truly do. And then if I think back myself with the chronic asthma, I experienced lots of grief early on in my very young age, and then just carried over, and then even generational, right? It goes back several generations of this chronic grief that sits with the lungs. And I embody a lot of the traditional Chinese medicine in my practice, and then they'll associate different organs with emotion. So lungs, grief. I mean, I feel you're probably aware of this, Elise, and, fear with the kidneys. And yes, I do see those archetypes. They start talking to me about their IBS, and I'm already kind of getting a sense of, okay, this is probably where they're at. And it's amazing, the ones that are very resistant to addressing the mental, emotional side of their health. It's going to take a long time for them to heal, right? There's going to be constant roadblocks and challenges. And I may not be the one to be able to break that to them, because if they're not open or they're not willing to embrace that, accept it, and do the work, well, I mean, I can't do my work, right? If that makes sense?
Absolutely. I mean, you could help them manage. I'm always like, do you really want to manage the crap that you don't like to begin with? You're going to manage your chronic pain. Let's get to the root of the chronic pain, right? Let's release that physical response to some stuff that's been built up over these years. So I find it fascinating, and I love that you're incorporating another element that's more tangible for a patient. Right? Like, I think a lot of individuals who are still new on their journey, do you find that, like, the fact that they're coming and that you're a doctor, right? They can relate to that, you know, and you're going to give them something that's tangible that they can take, that can assist them on their journey.
Yes. Well, and the thing, as a naturopathic doctor, it's still a newer part of medicine, especially in the province where I practice. We are a regulated profession, which is amazing, but there's still so much awareness and knowledge to share to the average person about naturopathic doctors, because some still view us as these like hippie herbal, like we get all these different, I'll often be told, I've already seen someone like you. They looked at my eyes and they were able to tell me something. And okay, I'm sure if that helped them, wonderful, but it's just for them to understand my background and where we're coming from. But in Alberta, we're not able to prescribe prescription medications. Some of the parts of Canada they are, and in the States, a naturopathic doctor, depending where you're practicing, has a lot more, like some can order x-rays and imaging. My friend in Seattle it's almost exactly like a conventional doctor, what they can order. So where I'm, I guess, more limited, but back to what you mentioned, some patients will come to me and expect me to prescribe them alternatives to the drugs or supplements and only rely on the supplements. But I always make it really clear that if they're not going to change their diet, manage their stress, work with their emotional well-being, the pill, whether it's a pharmaceutical or a supplement, it's not going to cure them. There's so much more behind that. We actually have a word for that. It's called green allopathy. So just prescribing a supplement to help the symptom or to mask whatever it is. I mean, we can do that, but it's, to me, that's not practicing foundational naturopathic medicine to really heal and address the root cause.
So if you're limited in your practice, and somebody comes to you, let's say I'm coming to you with, I don't know, I'm just using a urinary tract infection. I don't know why I'm using that, but because EFT, anyway, it doesn't matter. But so you can also prescribe supplements, or
sure I can. Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, no, I have a UTI, urinary tract infection. I have this whole protocol. It's all natural based. It actually works amazing. There are times that a patient would need an antibiotic. Then they'd have to consult their medical doctor or prescribing pharmacist. Like, there's different avenues to access it. I can help lots of patients, but if it's an acute emergent situation that they need an antibiotic or prescription, pharmaceutical prescription, they'd have to go through their family medical doctor or pharmacist. But no, I have access. Where I work, it's a really large clinic. We're 7 naturopathic doctors. We're actually a really big cancer clinic. I don't treat cancer, but 2 of the 7 doctors do. So we offer lots of IV therapy, so intravenous vitamins, minerals. We have our nursing staff. We have a huge natural dispensary. So I have access to so much in that clinic. I feel really blessed. And there's a team approach there as well. So for the most part, like rheumatoid arthritis, there's all these different protocols that I can help my patients, but some of them will need pharmaceuticals as well.
Right, to assist them on their journey. Yeah. You know who comes to mind? Sveta Silverman. She's a pathologist. We've had her on one of our events, and she's incredible, and she's looking to collaborate with naturopathic doctors too, just because she works in the clinic. She actually does the cells, I guess. She looks at the cells, or she's the pathologist in that arena. But I can connect you guys, especially because I think that you would have a lot in common on so many levels.
Oh, well, thanks, Elise. Yeah, no, that would be great.
And she's based in Calgary.
Oh, wonderful. So we're 3 hours apart.
Oh, see, I'm like, to me, I'm thinking you're in other parts of the world, but you're so close. Yeah. And Sveta just opened her spa. She has like this little natural healing spa now there, and I'll definitely connect you guys since you're so close. It'll be a good day trip, I guess, if it's not too snowy or icy. I don't know what the weather's like there, but
it's very close to what Gloria said earlier today. the weather would be pretty close.
Oh, okay. So it's chilly.
Yeah.
It is. Yeah. It's not Florida weather.
Well, and it's a little chilly now. I don't know what it's like outside, but for us, it was a little bit chilly today. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to actually thank you both for being here. It was a really pleasure. I'd like to stay in touch. Melanie, Dr. Melanie, I'd like to stay in touch for sure. For my own, I think that there's some things that we can have a conversation about for me personally as well. And then I'll put you in touch with Sveta. I want to thank everybody that's been on the Flip Your Script Blue Talk stage for the entire week. It's just been an amazing week. I recognize as soon as we get on day one how much I appreciate and look forward to the week, even though things are busy in between. I'm like, okay, it's on my calendar. And then I get here and I'm like, oh, it's just such a great space to share our precious and valuable energy with each other. And I think it's a big game changer. So thank you so much. Corey, thank you for being you. As always, you're awesome and you're a magnet for magnificent. And we'll have to be continued.
Awesome, my
Corey
friend.
says to be continued.
Everything you said back at you times 2. So I appreciate it. I appreciate you. Thank you so much. And we'll keep everybody in the loop of the next time around and start promoting Flip Your Script Friday for next week soon. So
yes, absolutely. And I also put in the comments for today, Manatee Landing Retreat, because we talked about it so much. So that's our Facebook link. Anybody interested in, coming and visiting or having a retreat or whatever, just reach out and we can chat.
Awesome stuff. Thanks, my friend. Say hi to Elliot, and you guys have an amazing rest of the week.
Yes, I had it. Yes, say hi to Shelly as well. Okay.
Awesome. Thank you so much. So, hello, Melanie.
Hi, Corey.
How are things? I mean, I heard everything you guys said while I was off, and then also as you guys were chatting. I figured I would let Elise sort of take right over since she couldn't be on for the whole time. So there's a couple, if you're okay with it, there's a couple of things I wanted to jump into that I heard you said as well. Just kind of pick up where you guys were. And one of the things I want to ask you about in a second is how long you said that the schooling is. That just blew my mind, but I'll go there in a second. But one of the things I wanted to mention, which I thought was really cool, you guys are both talking about chronic pain and how it can stem from emotional. And I feel like that part of things, and I was going to mention it with Elise on here as well, but I feel like that part of things is so significant because people that, as you mentioned, come in that don't understand the emotion side, don't understand how it could all be connected. One of the reasons I think they doubted so much is I always remember I went to this Reiki master and she said, every pain you ever have is related to emotion. And I said, well, and I said, not to be argumentative, but I don't believe that because I said, if you hit me in the hand with a hammer, are you telling me the only reason it hurts is because I have something in my background? And anyway, the point I'm getting at with that is that's not chronic pain.
No.
And I think that's probably, and I don't know, but I think that's the difference because when we just talk pain, some people are like, when you're saying all your pain, because I hear that a lot, is all related to emotion. But I mean, if you fall outside, slip and land on your head and smash your head, I have to say there's probably some pain that's not just because of your background. So I'm glad you guys talked a lot about chronic pain. I just wanted to put that out there first.
No, that's great. Great observation, Corey. Yeah, because I don't think acute pain is linked to, it's because you have an relationship trauma with your father. That's why you slipped on the ice and hurt your head, right? Yeah, I think it's like chronic pain and chronic illnesses, more the chronic, yeah.
Well, and like I said, I feel it's just like when you're trying to reach somebody who's already skeptical anyway, you got to kind of meet them where they're at.
Oh, for sure.
It's just like we had somebody on who was traveled to Mexico and she was searching for enlightenment and she spent 5 years doing that. And she said she thought when she got to the top of the hill doing yoga with a yogi beside her, that was going to be enlightenment. And it let her down. And to that same point, for somebody that's not there yet to say, well, the only way you're going to reach enlightenment or even just have peace is to go to the top of the mountain and sit cross-legged, when truthfully you can yoga, if you talk about being in stillness, you can do it just lying down on the floor.
Yeah, 100%.
There are so many rules on what it should be. I mean, I got to think 5,000 years ago, some of them just said, I'm just going to sit in stillness for a bit. So I just mean meet people where they're at. If they're not ready to understand, go to the top of the mountain, because you can't do that. But if you're not ready for that, then talk to them about how you can get some benefits without having to go there. So same idea, talk to them about how you can get some benefits, whether it's acute or chronic, and what the two look like. So I just wanted to comment on you guys mentioning the word chronic, because I think that's the word that's missing sometimes.
Thank you for just clarifying that, because I feel Lisa and I were totally on the same wavelength and we were understanding one another. But yeah, communication is so important, and that's where I usually meet my parents, or my patients. I do my best to meet my patients where they're at, right? And meditation's a great topic. Some think you have to be on top of the mountain with a yogi and do all this training, but I tell them it's something that you're doing that essentially is cultivating that inner peace. So it could be a very mindful walk in a forest without listening to a podcast or music, just being present, like feeling the wind, listening to the birds, and that could be enough for them, right? It could be a start. And when I tell patients that, they're often like, oh, I never thought of it. I thought I had to cross, my legs and put my hands in a position and hum. I'm like, well, I mean, yes, you can, and that may work for you, but that could also be very overwhelming for someone who doesn't even know where to start.
Yeah, I won't go too far into it, but I'm working on a fairly large project where we've interviewed a lot of people that are, if I say the names, people would know probably their name, like Jack Canfield, Lisa Nichols. And one of the things that's interesting, I interviewed about 35 of these influencers who, in some capacity, have talked about meditation in their life, like within their business, like, here's the benefits I get from meditation. So when you go into that, I even was starting to think, okay, they're all going to talk about how they sit on the chair in stillness. They might not cross their legs, but they're going to have their hands up and all that kind of stuff. Interestingly enough, Melanie, I would say 85% of them said that's not how I meditate. So JJ Virgin, who's quite well known for the Sugar Impact Diet book series, she told me it's when she's working out. So when I'm working out, that's my meditation. She doesn't listen to music, but she's just working out. Anthony Trucks, who's an American Ninja Warrior, said he doesn't do much handiwork around the house, but when he does, it's to meditate. Like, that's his meditation. And so it was interesting to see that all these people that we would think they must be sitting cross-legged aren't. And I feel even that's an awakening for people, because they're like, oh, if Jack Canfield is not necessarily, if he's just laying down in bed and stays there for an extra 10 minutes and that is meditation, if this is a guy who's traveled the world and interviewed all these people and spoke to all these people, and he's still able to get the benefits of meditation without having to sit cross-legged, maybe I can too. So again, I think sometimes when we get those examples, it points out to us it doesn't have to be one strict way to do something.
100%, Corey. I think that's amazing. The more awareness of it, the more people will feel less overwhelmed or scared by meditation.
Well, and I wanted to circle back to the 8 years thing that you mentioned as far as the training. So I've known of naturopathic doctors for years. I went to naturopathic doctors. I had no idea that is how long the training is. Like, I mean, you said you had to have a post-secondary of 8 years. Like, I didn't know that was the requirement.
You need a degree. Sorry, you need a degree. So 4 years of a degree, and then the 4-year naturopathic training. So 8 years total.
That's amazing. Like,
a lot.
If people realize that, I think to your point, they, like, the people that don't get it, that don't realize how much you've worked to earn this, they would understand how big of a thing it is and why you can bring them a perspective that they don't realize. Because I think to your point, some think, okay, they probably just go get a certificate at a school for 3 months.
Which they do in some unregulated provinces. So in Canada, we're not all regulated. Alberta, it's been since, it's been a while. But when I first started practicing Alberta, I'm trying to think back in 2012, I don't think we were regulated then. It was just 2013 or 2014. And that was huge for the profession, because then you're regulated. So it's not just some random person calling themselves a naturopath. So that's why a lot of us stress so much that, we're licensed NDs. Like, we're not just nobody, not that we're trying to brag about it, but we're really increasing the awareness of what a licensed naturopathic doctor has gone through, where I feel MDs don't have to stress that, because it's like, people know, well, you're an MD, you're a doctor, you've done a lot of education. Well, so have we. In the 4-year program I did in BC, in Vancouver, was pretty much 4 straight years. We didn't have a lot of time off. It was structured differently than the Toronto program in Canada. And I just wanted the more full-on, it's the same education. It's just, the days aren't as intense. It's more spread out, and it's just structured differently.
And so, having said that, now I'm curious on when you talk about the different provinces, would it, because I'm thinking now from what you said, Alberta, at one point you didn't need that and now you do. So what would happen, and I'm just curious, but what happens with the people that maybe did go for 3-month certificate, and then when you change the whole thing over, do they get grandfathered in, I wonder, or do they have to now go get that 4 years or whatever?
They'd have to do 8 years, like, they'd have to get their undergrad. Yes. So Quebec is an unregulated province, and I'm fully bilingual. My first language is French. So a quarter of my practice are francophones, and some have moved to Alberta from Quebec and are used to seeing we call it the naturopath, like not a regulated naturopathic doctor. So they're used to a certain, like naturopaths in Quebec have a certain, I guess, a certain image. And I do know some they're naturopathic doctors that did the 8 years that are practicing in Montreal or Quebec. However, they understand they're not in a licensed province. So there's pros and cons both ways. Ideally, it'd be great if all provinces and the Maritimes were all regulated, but with time.
And so on that note, I don't think Nova Scotia is regulated, right?
I had a feeling you were going to ask me. I thought that they're trying to, I'm not 100% sure. I should have looked this up.
No, it's all good. I went to a naturopathic doctor for a while in Nova Scotia, and I don't think she went through that much, like 8 years or even 4 years. I feel like she went for a 1-year college program. So
okay.
That's what I was asking. But that would have been, I mean, that's got to be 8-10 years ago now at least. So
yeah.
Whatever it was then, it could be completely different anyway now. I was just curious.
Yeah, and it could be, Corey, and I should be up to that because we were 35 in my grad class, and I know there's a couple that are in the Maritimes and one specifically near Halifax. So I'm like, I should know that, but I don't. And then just to also clarify, in British Columbia and Ontario, they have prescription rights of pharmaceuticals, where in Alberta, we're hoping to eventually get it. We're fully trained. We have to write a pharmacology, a pharmacy, very thorough exam, oral and written, to fully understand the drugs like pharmaceuticals, and then understand the interactions between herbal medicine and what we prescribe and pharmaceuticals. So it would be great to eventually get it, especially that I was gonna be a pharmacist. I have so much experience working in a pharmacy, and I'm still very interested by it. But it depends on the government.
It's the one thing I feel good about, and this is one of the directions I wanted to go anyway, was almost the fight to get the same standing as a medical doctor. It feels like it's moving finally in the right direction, is what I'm driving at, because if I look back, even as I said, to Nova Scotia, those 8 or 10 years ago,
yeah.
I'm going to be honest, I viewed a naturopathic doctor different than I do now. I didn't know you needed 8 years, but I knew it had come a long way. Yeah. And so I view it differently myself. But I feel like we're going in the right direction. And you can correct me if I'm wrong because you'd see the inside, but I feel like a part of that as well is that people are finally accepting other options outside of just fill out this prescription pad for me and this drug that's going to make it all go away. Mm-hmm. Whether it really does or not is questionable. But the point is that I feel like people used to see like a separation like this. Either you understood this and accepted this and would give it a try, or you're over here. And it feels like now it's getting closer. Am I right on that, or that's just what it feels like?
I think you're right. Yeah, it's definitely moving closer. I mean, in my practice, I see challenges all the time. I'll hear a patient, and one of the biggest challenge is, I think, the conventional medical community working collaboratively with the naturopathic doctors. That's where I would like to see more shifts, and that it can get quite frustrating at times. But patients that I'm getting, I feel the average population, the average person is learning more about it, or they know someone who's seen one, and there's more awareness, there's more social media presence, right? There's just more presence in Canada, I feel, about naturopathic medicine. We have a naturopathic medicine week every May, where the Canadian Association of Naturopathic Doctors really tries to have a great advertising campaign and encourages all the NDs to use their campaign and promote it and really educate. And that's even myself in my practice. I have a pretty full practice, but I keep using my social media platforms to really empower women, some that aren't even working with me as their ND, but really to raise awareness of naturopathic medicine. Like, that's my main goal. It'd be great to just meet someone on the street and ask them, hey, have you ever heard of an ND? And them, saying, oh yes, blah, blah, blah. But I feel right now, it's still a large portion of them would say no, not that they're not open to it, but may not be able to elaborate. However, Corey, it is improving slowly. I think it's a slow improvement, but at least it's in the right direction.
And now, how do I guess when we talk about modalities and different things, like Elise mentioned, she does tapping, and even just this week, I mean, we've had so many different modalities talked about, Access Conscious Bars, and I'd love to get your take on when you're working with people, do you partner with other people in some of those areas? Do you try to keep up with all those areas and say, hey, have you tried this? Like, I'm just curious, how much do you integrate the different things that are out there? Because I will say almost anybody you go to that practices one modality, they feel it's the best modality to help you and serve you. And so you could have like Access Conscious bars and tapping, and you could have two people side by side, and each one of them is going to feel that modality is going to be your answer. So I'm just curious, do you integrate them? Do you work with different people on that? Or how do you serve people when it comes to if you think this might be the fit for them?
I integrate for sure. I have a whole list of healthcare providers or psychologists or different modalities of people that I can refer to. So, because in my practice, actually the best example I can give you is chiropractor manipulation. So the Vancouver School of Naturopathic Medicine is a big MSK school. We learn a lot about adjusting the spine and the neck and doing lots of orthopedic tests, but that's not my forte. And from the beginning, I've always told myself, unless I do this day in and day out, I'm going to refer. And I've referred all the time to chiropractors or, you know, more hands-on type therapy. I'm not going to do it. I have the training, but I'm choosing not to do it. I really integrate a lot of Chinese medicine, homeopathy, herbal medicine, nutrition, lifestyle counseling. I know that's a big list, but I really do mesh a lot of them and kind of meet the patient where they're at. But if they need, you know, counseling, I'll refer to a therapist. Or if it comes more, if they're more energetically minded and want like Reiki or different other these more energetic based modalities, well, I'll refer. Acupuncture we're trained in acupuncture, and I used to offer a lot as a newer doctor when I had more room in my schedule to book people. I don't have the room anymore, so I'll refer for acupuncture. So I strongly encourage patients to have a healthcare team, not to rely all on me or on even their MD. You need a healthcare team and to know when to access who, and even personally have a healthcare team. I'm not just going to see one person and feel that their one therapy is going to do everything for me. I don't know if that answers your question, Corey, but.
Yeah, it certainly does. And I guess it flows nicely into my next question. And we're starting to wind down, but I have a couple more questions if you're okay with that time-wise. One of the questions goes back to this idea of one size fits all. So, you know, I mentioned like modalities. I'll talk to a lot of people, and because of me interviewing so many people, I hear this a lot, but I'll talk to a lot of people where, again, they'll feel their modality, that one thing they do is the be all. Like, that's all you need ever in your life. And you need nothing more, and you're good to go. And so do you believe or feel, you probably would know actually, that it's more about personalized health, like more about what Corey needs based on who he is, his makeup, his body, his background, all that stuff? Is that more important than a one size fits all?
100%, but I understand depending on who you're interviewing, you may get a different answer. But I've always embraced and used different modalities. I don't have my like signature, because I know some naturopathic doctors will be branded and have their like signature move, their signature protocol or whatever. And I mean, that's great if that works, but I struggle with that because every person is unique. And we'll go back to rheumatoid arthritis. So there's different set naturopathic protocols that could work with that person, but not every patient I see with that diagnosis will have the same protocol. And it could be tweaked even based on the month that I see them or what's happened in their life. If they experienced a major trauma, I mean, this COVID pandemic has derailed a lot of people because it's a major stress. So the protocol that I had him on may not work. So I'm constantly, it's an ebb and flow. I just think of the waves of an ocean, right? It's constantly moving. We're dynamic beings. So I know there's some people do amazing with their signature program or their one modality, but I've always struggled with that personally. So I don't think I'll ever have a signature because I'm going to meet the person where they're at.
Yeah, I totally love that, because on two fronts. One, again, I feel like we're individual people, and you can hear of somebody having this miraculous awakening and change and transformation, having one modality, and they had they went through, as you said, you met them when they went down 50 roads and didn't get any results. And other people, the first road they go down, they have the result.
Yes.
And they're done. And I mean, I shouldn't say they're done. There's always preventative. But what I mean is that, we see people that it takes forever and they go see a whole bunch of people. And then we see other people that it's the first person they go see. And so I think that's proof enough as it is that it's not a one size fits all. But the other side of that, and I know it's a weird comparison, But when I hear people say this is the only choice, and by the way, it can go further than modalities and practices. It can be somebody that's in, say, a business, like what's it called, a network marketing.
Yes.
It says this is the only option, and this will fix and change your life forever, and it's the only one. And then I'll see that person go to another company, and then they'll say this is the only option, and it'll fix. And so I always have challenge with that, because I feel like it's never only one. Like I don't believe in absolutes, I guess. I don't think it can ever only be one. I think it's what serves you best. And if you feel that this one served you and it worked and it does help you and it did all the stuff, then that's what matters. And over here, somebody else's could serve you and fix and do what it's meant to, and that's what matters. And if none of them work for you, you got to find something different, because that's what matters. So I just wanted to ask you your thoughts around that, because we do see a lot of one-size-fits-all mentality.
I do. And actually I have people that walk in and that's what they want. They'll even ask, did this work with your other patients with my condition? Like, is this going to fix me? How long is it going to take to fix me? I get those questions a lot. And I'd say those are, people that maybe are earlier on their journey of really understanding the whole spiritual, mental, emotional aspect of it. And we had learned in school that for every year, it's the average rule. Every year someone's had a condition, it's 1 month for healing. So say someone's had a condition for 5 years, well, based on the protocol I choose for them, give me 5 months to, I'm not saying heal them, but just start feeling better. So usually people are okay when I give that answer, and I'm not making that up. It's one thing that we learned. But I could see they still want the one size fits all. And I'm very open and honest with my patients, and I pride myself on that. So I have told them up front, if that's your mentality, I don't think we're the right fit, because it's going to ebb and flow, and I'm not throwing everything at you all at once. To me, I'm very timeline oriented and data oriented with blood work and labs that I do. So based on once I have all the information, this is what we're going to do. So I know that's it's a challenge for me in my practice when people show up with that mentality, because I feel I can help them to just help them by, 10 or 15%.
I get it totally. Yeah. And like you said, they're going there with a one size fits all. And like, I want to do what worked for another patient, but then also they're probably wanting it to work in a week. They're wanting it to fix them in a week as well. Yeah. And I'll say one quick interesting thing before I wind down with the last couple of super quick questions. But, when we talk about this, like I talked with different sort of, I'll say that old, old metaphor, different strokes for different folks, or that old saying. Yeah. But, my girlfriend, for instance, both pregnancies, she had a lot of trouble with her gallbladder. And when she went through the medical system, they wanted to do surgery and different things. And so somebody told her about she knew the person, she went there before, but somebody said, did you ever try going to, and her name's Dr. Pang, and she's she used to be an anesthesiologist and run that part of the hospital. Then she retired. She's like 85 now. She can do cartwheels. And she practices Chinese medicine, and she's an acupuncturist. And she said, did you think about going to her? Both times she went with her, within 3 treatments of acupuncture, her gallbladder was perfect again.
Amazing.
And somebody like what I was going to say that is somebody else could have went to her, maybe, and said, I didn't get that experience. It didn't fix it. But for my girlfriend, it wasn't just once. She went twice, 2 separate pregnancies, and both times. And when she went back to the doctor, they're like, we don't see any issue anymore. Like, it was just done. But, to that point, it's not everybody's going to have it happen 2 or 3 times. Not everybody's going to have it happen at all. And it might be something else that works for them. Mm-hmm. But at the same time, being open, she was able to go there instead of going through the system of, going through surgery and all this other stuff. She was able to go and have it taken, basically just going to hang out with a couple of people at a local. It's actually in front of her house, but she has like a clinic side and then the house side. And she's 85. She's just practicing because she loves seeing people get healthy. But yeah, we love her because we drive by there and she's always out in the garden and running around. And she's like, I'm like, clearly she's doing something right.
Yes.
But it works. There's all kinds of people that swear by her, like the people that'll go there and say back problems or whatever and say, this will never get fixed. My cousin's sending me here. He forced me to come see you, but I know it'll never get fixed. And they're even douters. And then like 2 weeks later, you'll see the post on Facebook. I went to her and it's perfect. But she's practicing Chinese medicine as you're quite, familiar with. So she's practicing on a certain level and she's knowing what points to put the needle in at and stuff. And I mean, this has been her whole life. But yeah, I just want to point out, like, it might not be all sizes fit all, but I mean, there's going to be something that works for somebody.
For sure. And you said the magic word, being open, just being open to other possibilities and being open that if that doesn't work for you, there could be another option to try.
100%. And so I said we were winding down. I just have two last questions. One of them is pretty easy. It's just going to be how we can connect with you and learn more. But before I jump ahead to that one, I always ask everybody my time machine question. So essentially that's, if you could jump into a time machine, go back and talk to a younger Melanie and give her a piece of life advice based on what you've learned in the years since, what do you think you might tell her?
Never to hesitate to speak my truth.
I like that.
I know that's a powerful one, but I've learned so much with my postpartum depression and anxiety journey, and the last couple years of my life have been the most enlightened and awakening years, but I've gone through some pretty big traumas. And looking back, if I could have been speaking my truth earlier on, maybe that wouldn't have happened or would have manifested differently. However, we learn from the past and we have the opportunity to improve our future. So
I love it. And I will say, some people say, well, I wouldn't get in the time machine because, to your point, I needed to go through that journey. But I always like to ask the question more as a hypothetical.
Yeah.
Because it's more just to see what kind of thing a person would actually, what kind of advice they would give another person that's that age or another younger person. But yeah, I love that you said that. And we've talked a lot about this week about being open about stuff that for years we've always tried to hide. For instance, miscarriages. My girlfriend and I had a miscarriage. We have 2 children now, but the first time around, and we both didn't know any better. So like my girlfriend was always taught, don't tell anybody you're pregnant until 3 months, because if you lose the baby, then you'll have to explain that you lost the baby. And I never thought about it at the time until she started opening up just one-on-one to people. And all of a sudden she found out every person she knew had had a miscarriage. Meanwhile, she thought it was like, I'm the only person that's ever lost a child. And what it taught us is maybe this idea of hiding that you're pregnant isn't as good of an idea either, because if you would have told people, you're operating on a higher level energy now because you can enjoy the warmth. But if you did lose the child, now you have a whole support system that knows.
Yes.
Otherwise, you don't tell anybody, and then you have to go it alone because you didn't tell anybody.
Well, I'm glad she opened up.
Well, and it made me think of it when you said speak your truth. I feel like there's a lot of things that if we would stop shoving under the rug and start talking about, we would have more healing in the world. That's just a personal opinion.
I fully agree with that, Corey.
So I've told you what the last question was, Melanie. If you were to say, here's the best place to reach me, to find me, to connect with me, to learn more, is there a hub or a place that you would normally send people?
My main would be Instagram. It's just Dr. Robinson _ND. I'm on Facebook as well, Dr. Melanie Robinson, naturopathic doctor. I've managed to be in practice over 9 years, and I still don't have a website. It's on my to-do list. I just haven't gone around to it. So my social media are the best places to learn more about me and learn more about your health.
I love it. And to your point about the website, clearly you haven't needed one. You have a full practice and you've been able to get by without it. So we all should be so lucky.
Maybe one day I'll do it. But well, thanks, Corey.
Robinson, this has been an absolute pleasure. I'll let you run, but we will wave the flag for you. I'll call it a to be continued. As you mentioned, you have you're going to be in the next book coming out, so people will be able to see that in the next couple of weeks, actually 2 to 3 weeks maximum. And we were so excited to have you in the second book. So thank you for all the great work you're doing, all the lives you're impacting. And again, we'll call it a to be continued with your permission.
Perfect. Thanks, Corey. Take care.
Thanks, Melanie. We'll talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
So I'm going to say our goodbyes, everybody, where Lisa's not with me. I see we got a little comment here by Eric. Corey Poirier and Lisa Rothman, enjoyed chatting with you. You guys rock. My contact info is below. And you can see Eric's contact info. Thank you so much, Eric. We loved having you on this journey with us today. And thank you, everybody, for joining us, as always. This is one of my favorite parts of my months is being able to do these events. And it's funny because I often struggle with the idea of, finding maybe a co-host, with, having co-hosting with Elise and then co-hosting with Kelly and the other one. I struggle with sometimes. It'd be nice to kind of go push myself behind the scenes and do a bit more of the marketing on it and the media on it. But at the same time, I struggle with the idea of not being involved in this great energy all week. So that's still a struggle. I'm still working on that. And at the same time, as far as scaling bLU Talks and keeping it growing, I'm going to have to keep looking at that. But in the interim, it's such a great energy to be in the space of. So thank you, first of all, to all our speakers this week for bringing that energy and making that space such a great place. Thank you, as I mentioned earlier, to my co-host Elise, who always knocks it out of the park. And thank you to all the viewers that join us each time out. We're so thankful and grateful for you. Between the live and the replay, it's not abnormal for us to see thousands of viewers each time out. And so I'm just so grateful and thankful for that. We're on about 14, I think, platforms right now. And when I say platforms, I mean we're on Facebook across maybe, I should say channels. We're on about 8 Facebook channels, and then LinkedIn and YouTube and et cetera, et cetera. And so across all those platforms, it's so cool to be able to discover people and meet them where they're at. And so thank you, everybody, for joining us on this journey each time around. We do have the Amplify Your Message event coming up at the end of this month, the week of April 26th, I believe, if I have the calendar dates right. I think Monday, yeah, the 26th. So the week of the 26th to April 30th, we have a big Amplify Your Messages event coming up, or Amplify Your Message. The website's amplifyyourmessages.com. The event's called Amplify Your Message. And so we have that coming up at the end of the month. I'm going to have a second co-host on a couple of the days, I believe. And Kelly's going to be my co-host on the author days as well. So that's going to be exciting. That's coming up at the end of the month. bLU Talks book number 4 is, we're literally about to send it to the formatter, so we're weeks away from the launch, so that's new and exciting. And the bLU Talks brand, as was mentioned, Eric mentioned it as well, we brought it over now to Amazon and Roku and Apple and Google Play and Connect TV and C-Suite Network, so you can find us on all those channels. You can find us at bluetalks.com. We're on YouTube. So you can find bLU Talks in lots of different directions. And so, again, I just want to thank you for supporting us on this journey. I will tell you more to be announced, but starting next week, we're doing a soft launch for my new member site called the Influencer Vault. I'm super excited about this. Been working toward this for a long, long time. And then we'll be doing the kind of mid-launch, probably a month after that. And then we'll be doing the bigger launch, the full launch in June. So you'll see stuff coming up about that in the very near future as well. So that's kind of the big summary of everything. This week has been absolutely magnificent. I've learned so much, so many great nuggets of wisdom, mind seeds, as Elise calls them. Too many for me to try to summarize them now. I will just say, if you're just catching this now, go back and check out the replays, and you'll probably be blown away by what you could learn if you dive fully in. So thank you, everybody. I'm Collier Poirier. This has been bLU Talks presents Flip Your Script. And we will be back again at the end of April with the Amplify Your Message event, as I mentioned, and then likely back later May with the next Flip Your Script event. Thanks, everybody. Until next time, I appreciate all of you, and I salute you.